As the world around you begins to dim and quieten, imagine yourself gently sinking into a place far removed from the noise of the present day. A place where time stretches softly, like a long, unbroken thread weaving through forgotten ages. Allow your breath to settle, slow and steady, as if matching the rhythm of distant desert winds or the hushed lapping of an ancient river against its muddy banks. This is the beginning of a journey not measured in miles, but in centuries, in stories, and in the lingering echoes of countless civilizations that once rose, flourished, and vanished into the dust of history. Let the weight of the day drift away as you picture a landscape untouched by modern light. No cars, no screens, no hurried footsteps. Only the faint glow of moonlight resting on old stone ruins and the soft warmth of distant hearth fires. Tonight, you are stepping quietly into a world where humanity was still learning to build, to dream, and to carve meaning into the earth and sky. A world with mysteries so old that even the people who lived them could not have imagined how far their stories would travel. Imagine the first breath of dawn over a land that has no name yet, a land watched over by early wanderers who followed the seasons and the stars. They carried simple tools but complex hopes. Their footsteps were the first to trace the faint outlines of the empires that would one day rise where they stood. The air was cool, crisp, unshaped by the smoke of industry, and the rivers ran thick and rich with the promise of life. These early people gathered by those rivers, drawn by the fertile soil and the shimmering water, unaware that they were about to spark what we now call civilization. As you relax deeper into this journey, imagine those rivers, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Nile, quiet in the early morning mist. Their surface glistens under the first touch of sunlight, and reeds sway gently along their banks. Birds call softly overhead, their songs drifting through the stillness like distant spells. These rivers have memory. They watched the first huts being built, the first seeds being planted, the first stories being whispered by firelight. They witnessed the rise of entire worlds and the final silence when those worlds faded away. Allow your mind to float along one of these ancient waterways. Not rushing, not pushing forward, simply drifting, carried by a calm current toward lands that have been forgotten by many but never erased entirely. The air is warm now, scented with clay, stone dust, and the faint sweetness of old gardens where figs once ripened in the sun. The murmurs of early life blend into the background, the scrape of a potter's wheel, the soft chanting of priests at dawn, the whisper of woven cloth as it's draped over a wooden frame. This is the world before empires became empires. Before history carved names into tablets and monuments. Before the great kings, the towering walls, the mythologies that shaped the dreams of generations. It is a world that still feels small, intimate, and full of wonder. People gather around small fires, watching sparks rise like tiny stars. They trade stories of spirits, of sky gods, of animals that guide or warn. These stories, simple as they seem, are the seeds of the myths that would later define entire cultures. As you breathe slowly, imagine the first settlements beginning to grow. Mud brick walls take shape under patient hands. Fields stretch out in neat lines, watered by clever channels carved from the river. The smell of grain mixes with the earthy scent of rain-soaked soil. People move with quiet purpose, not hurried, not frantic, but steady, rhythmic, as though guided by the pulse of the natural world. Night approaches again, calmly and without urgency. The sky deepens into a velvety blue, sprinkled with stars that shine far brighter than we ever see today. The constellations are unmistakably clear, and early astronomers lift their faces to the heavens, tracing patterns that would one day become stories of heroes, of monsters, of gods who walked among mortals. The crackling of small campfires adds warmth to the darkness, their glow illuminating thoughtful faces carved by years of sun and wind. The quiet hum of these early communities creates a feeling of deep peace, a sense of connection that stretches across time. Even though their world is distant, separated from ours by thousands of years, there is something familiar in their routines. The gentle rhythm of preparing food, tending to animals, shaping tools, singing lullabies, watching shadows dance on clay walls, these moments of simple life echo softly across history. As your body relaxes deeper, Imagine how everything around you slows even more. The flow of the river becomes almost hypnotic. The distant conversations fade into a soothing murmur. The torchlight flickers in lazy patterns. The wind carries the scent of warm earth and quiet fields. Time here does not rush. It does not push or pull. It simply exists, stretching softly in every direction. And just as the people of this early world did, you begin to sense the quiet anticipation of something greater forming. The world stands on the edge of transformation. Within these small settlements, sparks of innovation flicker like embers waiting for a gentle breath to awaken them. Writing is still hundreds of years away. Temples are only simple shrines. Tools are basic but purposeful. Yet beneath this calm simplicity, the foundations of great civilizations are quietly taking root. Let yourself sink into the gentle awareness that every empire, every myth, every grand monument began in places like this. Small, peaceful communities where the rhythm of daily life shaped the first chapters of human history. Tonight, you travel through those beginnings not as a scholar or a historian, but as a wandering spirit drifting through time. There is no urgency, no destination to reach. Only the slow unfolding of stories and the endless calm of the ancient world as it awakens. And with this feeling of drifting through forgotten ages, you begin naturally transitioning toward the next era, where the first true cities will rise from the riverside clay, carrying humanity into a new chapter of its long and mysterious journey. As you drift deeper into this quiet journey through forgotten eras, imagine yourself approaching the earliest cities the world had ever known, places where human imagination first took physical shape in stone, clay, and ritual. The landscape around you shifts gently as you near the cradle of civilization, a vast stretch of rich earth nestled between two winding rivers whose currents carried stories long before they carried boats. The air is warm here, touched by the scent of wet clay and fresh reeds, and the horizon glows with the soft gold of a rising sun that illuminates lands still untouched by the noise of modern life. Let yourself picture the first faint outlines of a city emerging through the morning mist. Not tall towers or brilliant lights, but humble clusters of mud brick homes, built close together for warmth and safety. Their walls are smooth and pale, shaped by hands that worked with patience and purpose. Along narrow pathways, early settlers move quietly, their footsteps leaving shallow impressions in the damp earth. To walk among them is to feel the beginnings of something extraordinary, humanity's first experiments with community, structure, and shared identity. In the center of one such early settlement, the city of Uruk begins to take shape, though its earliest form is modest and soft around the edges. Smoke spirals lazily from small hearths where bread is baked slowly under clay domes. The smell is comforting, familiar, even across thousands of years. Children play near the riverbanks, shaping figures from mud, their laughter gentle and unhurried. Nearby, farmers tend to barley fields that swish lightly in the breeze, their movements steady and timed to the rhythm of the seasons. Imagine the soundscape around you. The low murmur of voices trading goods at simple markets, the rustle of woven baskets filled with dates and grains, the buzzing of insects drifting over irrigated fields, and the soft thump of wooden wheels as early carts pass along narrow streets. These sounds layer gently on top of one another, never harsh or overwhelming, just the natural music of a community beginning to grow. As you walk further into this early world, you may notice how carefully these settlements are arranged. Though life is simple, there is a quiet sophistication in the way canals are dug to guide water where it's needed most, in the symmetry of storage rooms where grain is preserved, in the careful shaping of earthen ovens and communal spaces. These are not random clusters of huts but deliberate, thoughtful foundations of human society. Follow the river a little longer and you will reach Eridu, one of the oldest sacred cities. Although small, it carries a certain reverence, an atmosphere of calm ritual woven into each moment. At dawn, priests clad in simple woven garments gather near a shrine, nothing grand, just a raised platform of packed earth, and offer gentle prayers to the spirits they believe dwell within the river and sky. Smoke rises from their offerings, curling upward like soft ribbons before dissolving into the warm air. These rituals are not dramatic or loud. They are quiet, meditative gestures that help the early people make sense of the world around them. The river is their lifeline. When it floods, it brings nourishment. When it dries, it requires patience and adaptation. The people learn to listen to it, to study the patterns of its movements. This relationship, calm and reciprocal, becomes the foundation upon which their society is built. As you breathe slowly, you can almost hear the soft lapping of water against the banks, the gentle splash of fish darting beneath the surface. The day drifts on peacefully. Workers gather clay from the river's edge, kneading it with practiced hands before shaping it into bricks. These bricks are left to dry under the sun, their color gradually deepening from pale beige to warm brown. Over time, they become the building blocks of walls, temples, and homes. There is something soothing about the steady repetition of their task, the scoop of wet earth, the press of palms, the soft patting that gives each brick its form. It is a rhythm that mirrors the slow movement of water and the patient turning of seasons. As the afternoon light softens, the first signs of urban life begin to appear more clearly. Markets open with small wooden stalls displaying fish, pottery, woven mats, and beads carved from shell. Traders from distant villages arrive by boat, gliding slowly onto the shore with baskets of goods balanced carefully on their vessels. Their greetings are simple, quiet, respectful. Negotiations happen with calm gestures, not loud voices. People speak just loud enough to be heard over the breeze. In another corner of the city, scribes begin experimenting with symbols, small, simple marks etched onto wet clay tablets. They are not writing stories yet, not recording grand events, but practicing a new kind of memory. By pressing reeds into clay, they begin to capture numbers, inventories, and trade records. These early marks are humble, almost childlike, but they hold a quiet brilliance, the first steps toward writing, a gift from these early cities that would change the world forever. As evening descends, the sky turns a deep shade of amber, the sunlight stretching long shadows across the fields. The people finish their tasks slowly, allowing the day to wind down at its own gentle pace. Fires are lit, their soft glow spilling onto the dusty streets. Families gather outside their homes, sharing meals of bread, lentils, fish, and dates. Conversations remain soft, blending into the ambient hum of nighttime insects and distant animals stirred by the cooling air. Look up at the sky now, the same sky the ancient settlers saw, glowing with stars scattered in patterns they had only begun to understand. Early stargazers sit on rooftops, pointing upward, naming clusters of lights after gods, animals, and celestial spirits. Their voices are hushed, breathy with awe, as they weave meaning into the night. Over time, these star stories will guide travelers, shape myths, and become part of the cultural foundation of entire civilizations. Night deepens, slow and steady, wrapping the early cities in a blanket of stillness. Torches flicker against mud brick walls, casting soft patterns like waves of light. The river quiets. The fields rest. Even the animals settle into their shelters, sensing the calm weight of the evening. As you drift further into this peaceful ancient world, imagine the early cities not as bustling centers, but as gentle beginnings, a place where people lived in harmony with the land, where stories were shared beside quiet fires, where rivers carried whispers of future greatness. These were the first steps toward urban life, toward organized society, toward the grand civilizations that would eventually rise from these humble foundations. And as your mind softens into this quiet past, you begin to sense the natural transition toward what comes next, the emergence of Sumer, with its towering ziggurats and myths that drifted between heaven and earth, waiting to be rediscovered in the calm unfolding of history drifting through time. As the journey continues, imagine the soft glow of dawn settling over the ancient land of Sumer, a place where the earliest whispers of organized civilization first took shape. The air carries a gentle warmth, mixed with the earthy scent of clay and the faint sweetness of date palms swaying near the river. This is a world suspended between myth and history, a place where every sunrise feels like a quiet story unfolding, and every breeze carries echoes of voices long vanished. Let yourself drift into the heart of this early civilization, picturing the landscape as it might have appeared thousands of years ago. The plains stretch wide and flat, dotted with small settlements that shimmer faintly in the morning light. Beyond them, rising slowly from the ground like a piece of the sky brought down to earth, stands a massive structure, one of the earliest ziggurats. Its layers are stacked with careful precision, each level slightly smaller than the one below, creating a shape that feels both grounded and celestial. The mud brick walls glow pale gold under the sunlight, giving the impression of a sleeping giant waiting to awaken. As you approach the ziggurat, you might imagine the gentle shuffle of priests preparing offerings for the gods they believe dwell high above. Their movements are slow, deliberate, softened by the calm morning air. They carry baskets filled with grain, dates, and small clay figurines meant to represent their prayers. These offerings are placed with reverence at the feet of the massive temple structure, each gesture performed with steady breath and quiet devotion. Nothing is rushed here. Everything moves with the natural rhythm of a world deeply connected to the cycles of the earth. In the growing city around the ziggurat, life unfolds in gentle harmony. The streets are narrow, lined with homes built from sun-dried clay bricks. Doors open to reveal cool, shadowy rooms where families weave baskets, grind grain, or shape pottery by hand. The soft tapping of tools against clay echoes through the air like a slow heartbeat. Women spread damp reeds on the ground to dry in the sun while children chase one another near the river. The atmosphere remains peaceful, unhurried, a reminder that time here flows differently, unmeasured by clocks or schedules. As you move deeper into the city, imagine the sound of craftsmen at work. A potter spins a simple wheel with his foot, shaping a vessel with careful fingers. The clay glides smoothly beneath his touch, rising into the form of a rounded jar. Nearby, a metalworker heats copper in a small, smoky furnace, watching patiently as it softens, ready to be hammered into tools or ornaments. These artisans do not simply create objects, they preserve traditions passed down through generations. Their work holds meaning, and their dedication is woven into every crack and curve of their creations. Somewhere in the center of the city, a gathering takes place. Elders meet beneath a shaded canopy, seated on woven mats placed in a semicircle. They discuss matters of irrigation, trade, and temple upkeep, their voices calm and measured. There is no sense of urgency, only a collective desire to maintain the steady balance of their community. A scribe sits nearby, pressing symbols into a damp clay tablet using a thin reed stylus. These early forms of writing, cuneiform, capture the agreement being made, marking the moment so it may be remembered long after the voices have faded. As the sun climbs higher, the city grows busier. Traders arrive from neighboring settlements, leading donkeys laden with baskets of vegetables, grains, and pottery. Their footsteps stir small clouds of dust that drift gently through the air. At the marketplace, goods are exchanged with soft words and patient gestures. A woman offers wool in return for barley. A fisherman brings his morning catch wrapped in woven nets, laying them out in rows for inspection. In the background, the river continues its eternal flow, reflecting shimmering patterns onto the sides of passing boats. But Sumer is not merely a collection of structures and routines. It is a place where humanity began weaving myth into the fabric of everyday life. In the quiet moments of the afternoon, when the heat softens movement and people seek shade, you can imagine stories drifting through the air like wind-borne secrets. Tales of divine beings who shaped the world, of gods who guided the rivers, the crops, the stars. The people believed their ziggurats were meeting places between heaven and earth, bridges through which the divine could descend to hear their prayers. One such story might speak of Enki, the god of water and wisdom, who brought knowledge to humankind. In their minds, the cool flow of the river was his voice, comforting and wise. Another tale might follow Inanna, the goddess of love and war, who moved through the world with both grace and power. Her presence was felt in the blooming of flowers as much as in the rise and fall of empires. These myths shaped not only spiritual beliefs but daily rituals, guiding people through the complexities of life with gentle moral lessons and cosmic symbolism. As the afternoon drifts into evening, the city begins to settle into a slower rhythm. Shadows grow long across the ground, stretching toward the riverbanks like fingers reaching for water. The The ziggurat's silhouette becomes striking against the deepening sky, each level highlighted by the soft touch of fading light. Torches are lit near doorways and along pathways, their flames flickering gently in the warm breeze. Families gather for their evening meals, sharing bowls of lentils, flatbread, and roasted vegetables. Conversations flow quietly, blending with the crackling of small fires. In the distance, musicians play simple instruments, flutes carved from reeds, drums made from animal hide. Their melodies rise and fall gently, weaving through the night air like threads of an ancient lullaby. Above it all, the night sky unfolds slowly, revealing a canopy of stars that shine with pristine clarity. The people of Sumer often looked to these stars for guidance, tracing their movements to understand seasons, harvests, and divine messages. Tonight, those same stars shimmer over you, carrying the weight of millennia yet feeling close enough to touch. As the city sinks into its nighttime calm, imagine standing at the base of the great ziggurat. The walls rise high above you, warmed by the day and cooling gently under the moonlight. The temple feels alive, breathing softly with the collective hope and devotion of its people. You breathe with it, slowly, deeply, as if absorbing the ancient stillness woven into every brick. This is Sumer. Not a distant world buried under the sands of time, but a place of quiet beginnings, a home to some of humanity's earliest dreams, myths, and memories. And as you drift deeper into this ancient landscape, the story continues to unfold seamlessly, carrying you toward the rise of new realms, new rulers, and new civilizations waiting to whisper their secrets into the soft quiet of the night. As the soft glow of morning fades into a warmer light, your journey drifts gently forward from the serene cities of Sumer into a new chapter of ancient history. The land you approach now feels familiar in its broad plains and winding rivers, yet something subtle has shifted. The air carries a different weight, a feeling of quiet anticipation, as though the world itself senses the arrival of a new figure whose presence will ripple through centuries. This is the beginning of the Akkadian Age, the rise of a leader whose story is as mysterious as the distant horizons themselves. Imagine the landscape stretching endlessly before you, the earth baked warm beneath the sun and the riverbanks lined with reeds that sway lazily in the gentle breeze. Small settlements dot the region, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of the Tigris and Euphrates. Farmers tend to their fields, drawing water through irrigation channels carved patiently over generations. Children gather clay for play, shaping figures of gods and animals, unaware that they stand at the threshold of transformation. Into this quiet world steps Sargon, a name that will echo across time. His origins, though legendary, are whispered through stories rather than written laws. They say he was found as an infant floating in a basket upon the river, carried by the current until he was discovered and raised by humble hands. Whether myth or truth, the tale reflects the way people saw him, a man touched by destiny, carried gently by the waters of fate toward greatness. As you breathe softly, imagine Sargon as a young man, curious, observant, and quietly ambitious. He watches how villages trade goods, how disputes are settled with calm authority, how temple priests speak with the symbols of the gods. He sees the potential for unity among scattered city-states that often drift between cooperation and rivalry. His mind, shaped by patience and practicality, begins to envision a world not divided by small boundaries but guided by a broader harmony. The days move slowly in this early age of Akkad, and yet change stirs beneath the surface like a faint tremor in the earth. Sargon gathers followers not through fear or force, but by offering a sense of purpose. He speaks of shared resources, safer trade routes, and defense against wandering raiders who roam the northern plains. His voice is steady, measured, drawing people toward him with the promise of stability in an unpredictable world. Imagine the peaceful preparations of this early leadership, craftsmen sharpening tools, not for destruction but for protection, farmers setting aside grain as a contribution to the collective, scribes pressing careful symbols into wet clay as they record new agreements between communities. The transition toward unity is not abrupt or violent. It emerges slowly, like dawn spreading across the horizon. As the Akkadian influence expands, the tone of life across the region changes gently. Trade grows smoother as villages begin cooperating under a shared vision. Caravans carrying textiles, oils, metals, and pottery move with greater security, their wheels carving steady paths through open plains. Cities such as Kish, Uar, and Lagash begin aligning under a calm political structure that encourages collaboration rather than competition. At the center of this growing network stands the city of Akkad, its walls rising proudly from the landscape. Imagine the streets bustling softly as merchants arrange goods beneath shaded awnings. The smell of fresh grain, metalwork, and river water mixes into a warm, earthy fragrance. Tall banners depicting symbolic animals sway in the wind, marking a culture developing its own identity, one that blends the deep-rooted traditions of Sumer with new administrative order. Despite the increased size and growing influence, the atmosphere remains peaceful. People continue their daily tasks at a pace determined by the sun and seasons. Bakers knead dough in cool interior rooms, potters shape amphorae that will carry oils across the land, weavers create patterns that reflect both local folklore and the emerging unity of Akkad. With each task completed, a sense of collective purpose deepens. Softly now, as evening descends, imagine Sargon standing atop a raised platform overlooking his city. The wind stirs his garments, carrying the scent of warm stone and distant water. The torches lining the streets flicker like tiny stars forming their own constellation along the city pathways. His expression is not triumphant, but contemplative. For all his achievements, he remains aware of the delicate balance required to maintain harmony across diverse communities. Throughout the expanded Akkadian realm, temples remain central to life. Priests continue ancient rituals, offering quiet prayers to gods shared by Sumerians and Akkadians alike. The blending of cultures is gentle, like two rivers meeting and flowing together in a single direction. Festivals are celebrated with music, dancing, and offerings that reflect the unity of their world. People paint clay figurines, sing hymns, and share meals in open courtyards as warm lantern light dances across their faces. But even as Sargon's realm flourishes, time moves softly toward inevitable changes. His successors inherit a world shaped by his careful hands, but managing such a widespread network requires patience and diplomacy. Some regions adapt easily, while others cling to their independent traditions. The shift is natural, like the slow erosion of riverbanks or the gentle migration of sand dunes over generations. Imagine the quiet moments near the end of the Akkadian era. Cities continue to glow under torchlight, their streets filled with the soft murmurs of nightly routines. Yet beneath the surface, small fractures begin to form, trade routes disrupted by distant conflict, fields burdened by shifting weather, distant tribes moving closer to the heart of the empire. These changes arrive not as sudden storms, but as gradual shifts in the wind, subtle and persistent. Still, the world does not descend into chaos. Life goes on, peaceful in many places even as the structure of the empire slowly loosens. The rivers continue their steady course. The ziggurats stand tall, basking in moonlight. The old stories of Sargon remain alive in the hearts of his people, spoken in gentle tones around nighttime fires, reminding them of a moment when unity seemed possible across the wide, ancient plains. As your breath softens and your mind drifts deeper into the calm of this forgotten age, you sense the natural transition forming once again. The Akkadian chapter gently closes, its echoes fading into the warm breeze that carries you forward. Ahead lies the world of Babylon, where gates would rise like jewels, myths would deepen, and ancient voices would whisper through corridors of stone. And with that quiet anticipation, the journey continues peacefully into the next realm of history. As your journey drifts gently forward, the soft light of the ancient world begins to shift once more. The plains widen, the river bends gracefully across the land, and a sense of quiet grandeur settles over the horizon. You are approaching Babylon, a city whose name would echo through time like a distant, resonant bell. The air feels warmer here, carrying hints of incense, baked clay, and the faint fragrance of blooming date palms swaying in the desert breeze. Babylon rises slowly before you, as if revealed by the soft lifting of a curtain woven from centuries. Imagine the approach as the sun begins its lazy descent, casting long ribbons of amber light across the sprawling city. The outer walls, immense and steady, glow with a gentle golden tone. Their surface is smooth, built from countless bricks molded by patient hands. Each brick seems to hold a memory, the touch of its maker, the heat of the kiln, the echo of footsteps from those who carried it to this place. Together, they form a vast protective embrace around the city within, a boundary between the bustling life inside and the endless desert stretching far beyond. Passing through the cool shadows of the entrance, you step into a world that hums with calm energy. Babylon is alive, but not in a hurried way. Its movements are slow, measured, like a deep breath taken by an ancient being. The streets are wide and smooth, lined with tall palm trees whose fronds sway softly overhead. Merchants arrange their goods in neat rows, calling out their offers in voices softened by the warm air. Clay pots filled with grain and spices, baskets of figs, freshly woven cloth, and decorated vases all rest in peaceful harmony beneath shaded awnings. The heart of the city pulses gently with life. Workers carry bundles of reeds along the riverbanks, their steps rhythmic and steady. Boatmen guide small wooden vessels across the glassy water, their paddles dipping silently into the river with each smooth stroke. The water reflects the brilliance of the sky, turning the surface into a shimmering mirror broken only by the occasional ripple of a fish or the soft splash of a boat returning with goods from faraway lands. As you walk deeper into Babylon, a sense of wonder settles over you, not loud or overwhelming, but quiet and warm, like a soft blanket placed gently around your shoulders. Rising above the city like a dream brought into physical form is the famous Ishtar Gate. Its deep blue tiles shimmer under the sunlight, each brick decorated with figures of lions, bulls, and dragons crafted in delicate relief. The creatures seem to watch over the city, guardians of both beauty and mystery. Their forms gleam faintly, as though touched by the last rays of the setting sun. Imagine standing beneath this magnificent structure. The cool shade of its arch surrounds you, and the surface of the glazed bricks feels smooth beneath your fingertips. The blues are rich, reminiscent of a twilight sky, while the accents of gold catch the light in soft, radiant flashes. Passing under the arch feels like stepping from one realm into another, a transition from the earthly to something a little more divine. Beyond the gate lies the processional way, a long, straight path lined with walls adorned in the same vivid blue tiles. This grand avenue stretches toward the heart of Babylon, inviting you to wander at your own slow pace. The air carries the scent of warm stone and distant gardens, where flowers bloom quietly in the fading daylight. The pathway guides you toward the great temples, toward the center of spiritual life where myth and reality weave together seamlessly. As the day transitions into evening, the ziggurat known as the Edamanenki stands tall against a deepening sky. Its layered structure rises like a mountain crafted by human devotion, each step leading upward toward the heavens. Priests in long robes ascend its ramps with offerings in hand, small bowls of oil, baskets of barley, precious incense gathered from distant lands. Their movements are tranquil, almost floating, as if guided by the ancient rhythms of ritual and belief. The mythology that surrounds Babylon is rich and deeply woven into the city's identity. As you move through the temple areas, you might hear quiet voices reciting stories of Marduk, the powerful guardian deity who shaped order from chaos. His tale is one of cosmic calm emerging from storm, of balance restored to the universe. The people of Babylon believed he watched over their city, and in return they honored him with hymns sung softly in the shadow of the ziggurat. The melodies drift through the warm evening air, rising slowly like smoke toward the violet sky. Further along, you encounter the hanging gardens. Whether myth or memory, imagination allows them to bloom before you. Terraces of greenery cascade gently down stone steps, each layer filled with fragrant flowers, fruit trees, and flowering vines. Water trickles softly through hidden channels, creating a delicate, soothing sound that mingles with the rustle of leaves. The scent of jasmine and fresh earth surrounds you, adding a cool sweetness to the warm evening. Whether the gardens existed exactly as described or not matters little, their presence captures the spirit of Babylon's dreamlike beauty, an oasis built from human longing and creativity. The city continues to glow softly as night fully settles. Oil lamps flicker to life along streets, casting warm, golden circles of light on the smooth stone pathways. Shadows dance gently against the walls, their movements slow and peaceful, creating an almost hypnotic calm as the noise of the day fades. People gather near their doorways, sharing meals under the soft glow of lanterns. Bowls of lentils, fresh bread, honey dates, and cooling water fill simple wooden tables. Conversations remain quiet, carried on in murmurs that add to the nighttime tranquility. Somewhere nearby, musicians begin to play. The soft tones of reed flutes drift through the air like gentle sighs, accompanied by the light tapping of small drums. The music floats upward, mingling with the fragrance of incense burning at temple altars. It creates an atmosphere of serenity that settles deep in your chest, urging you to breathe slowly, evenly, in rhythm with the ancient sounds around you. As you look up, the sky above Babylon reveals itself in full splendor. Stars shimmer like scattered jewels, bright and sharp against the dark canvas. The constellations form quiet patterns that early astronomers studied with deep curiosity. These scholars climbed rooftops or stood in open courtyards, watching the heavens with thoughtful eyes. They believed the skies held secrets, omens, messages, and rhythms that guided life itself. The whisper of the night breeze seems to carry their quiet thoughts, their questions, their meditative wonder. The city feels timeless in this moment, suspended between the earthly and the celestial. Babylon is not loud, not overwhelming. It moves gently, like a vast heart beating with slow, deliberate calm. Its myths, its architecture, its rituals, and its people all blend into a single soft harmony that surrounds you like a comforting embrace. As your breath deepens and the night grows still, you prepare to drift onward through the ancient world. Babylon fades behind you like a warm memory, its gates glowing faintly in the moonlight as you move toward the lands beyond, toward deserts, rivers, and kingdoms waiting to share their own quiet stories in the peaceful unfolding of time. As you leave the warm glow of Babylon behind, the landscape slowly shifts once more, guiding you westward across sands that shimmer under the gentle embrace of dawn. The desert stretches out in soft undulating waves of pale gold, quiet and endless, until the horizon gradually yields to the deep, life-giving ribbon of the Nile. The transition feels smooth, almost dreamlike, the harshness of the desert dissolving into the calm predictability of the river that would cradle one of humanity's longest-lived civilizations. Here, in the age before the pharaohs, Egypt is a quiet world still taking shape. Villages rest along the riverbanks like small islands of life in an ocean of sand. Their thatched roofs glow warmly in the early sunlight, their walls made of mud and reeds that blend seamlessly with the surrounding earth. Smoke rises gently from morning fires, curling upward into the still, cool air before fading into nothingness. This land is simpler now, unburdened by the monumental structures that would later define it. Yet the seeds of greatness lie hidden beneath its calm surface, waiting patiently for time to awaken them. Walk slowly through this early world, and you will find the Nile at the center of everything. Its waters move with a serene, unhurried grace, gliding past fields that stretch in narrow, fertile strips on either side. Farmers wade through shallow water, their feet sinking into the rich silt deposited by last season's flood. They scatter seeds with steady, practiced movements, their gestures forming a quiet dance with the river. The Nile gives without demand, bringing life where none should exist, and its people respond with gentle respect rather than worship born of fear. Imagine the soft sounds surrounding you, the rustle of papyrus reeds brushing against one another, the distant calls of waterbirds gliding across the river's surface, the low hum of insects awakening as the sun rises higher. There is no rush in this landscape, no urgency. Life moves at the pace of the seasons, guided by the rhythms of planting and harvest, flood and drought, sunlight and shadow. The people who live here understand these rhythms instinctively, for they shape every breath and every task. Children play along the water's edge, chasing small fish that dart away in silver flashes. Their laughter mingles with the sound of water gently lapping against the shore. Women kneel at the river, washing clay pots and woven baskets in slow, circular motions. Their hands move with quiet confidence, shaped by countless mornings spent in the same steady ritual. Nearby, men repair fishing nets, weaving strands together with patient fingers as they discuss the subtle changes in the river's behavior, its currents, its depth, its promise. As midday approaches, the sun climbs higher, casting a warm brightness that blankets everything it touches. The desert at the horizon appears to shimmer like a vast golden sea, its edges blurred by rising heat. Yet along the Nile, the breeze remains cool, flowing gently across the water and bringing relief to those working along its banks. Shadows gather under simple shelters made of palm fronds and wooden poles, offering a restful refuge where families share meals of bread, onions, dates, and fish caught fresh that morning. This early Egypt has no great kings yet, no towering pyramids or colossal statues. But belief already shapes the world in quiet ways. In the soft murmur of evening stories, you can hear the beginnings of myth, the earliest whispers of gods who would one day rule over sky and earth, river and desert. The people speak of spirits in the water, of protective beings in the reeds, of unseen presences that watch over the land. These early deities are not yet organized into pantheons or temples. They live in the wind, in the stars, in the gentle floodwaters that arrive with dependable grace each year. As day sinks into evening, the sky deepens into soft shades of orange and rose. The Nile reflects these colors like a long ribbon of polished glass stretching through the land. Villagers return from their fields, carrying bundles of harvested reeds, baskets of fish, and clay jars filled with cool water drawn from shaded pools. Fires are lit, their flames flickering gently as the scent of roasting barley and grilled fish drifts through the air. The day slows, softens, and folds itself into a quiet peace. Imagine walking among the small clusters of homes as twilight settles. The people gather in circles, sharing stories passed down through generations. Some speak of ancestors who migrated along the river's length, searching for fertile ground. Others recite tales of great creatures that once roamed the desert, or of stars that guide travelers through the night. These stories are simple now, unadorned, shaped by the calm wisdom of people who live in harmony with their surroundings. As the sky darkens, the stars emerge one by one, bright, steady, and unchallenged by artificial light. They stretch across the heavens in clear patterns, mirrored faintly in the dark surface of the Nile. The people tilt their faces upward, recognizing familiar constellations that help them mark seasons and navigate the river. No temples stand here yet, but the sky itself feels like a sacred space, vast and eternal. Listen for a moment to the night sounds, frogs croaking softly from the reeds, insects singing gentle rhythmic patterns, the whisper of a breeze passing through tall grasses. The world feels peaceful, safe, enveloped in the comforting embrace of the river's presence. Even the desert seems to rest at night, its silence stretching out under the stars like a soft blanket of stillness. In this early Egypt, life is not grand but deeply harmonious. It is a world shaped by balance, the steady rhythm of the river, the dependable warmth of the sun, the calm perseverance of its people. And though they do not yet know it, these villagers stand at the beginning of a story that will one day rise into greatness. The pyramids, the pharaohs, the elaborate burial rituals, the written language carved into stone, all of these lie ahead, waiting patiently for the right moment to emerge from the heart of this tranquil land. For now, everything remains quiet, untouched by future glory. The Nile flows softly under the pale moonlight, carrying its ancient wisdom through the darkness. The people sleep peacefully in their simple homes, comforted by the sounds of the river and the calm certainty of tomorrow's sunrise. And with this gentle stillness wrapping around you, the journey prepares to drift into the next chapter, where the first great pyramids will begin to rise beneath the bright desert sky. As the gentle night over pre-dynastic Egypt fades into the first hints of dawn, the world softens around you once more, preparing to reveal a new chapter in humanity's ancient journey. The desert sands begin to glow with a faint blush of gold, and somewhere far beyond the horizon, the sun slowly rises, pulling the old kingdom into existence with a quiet and majestic breath. This is the age when Egypt begins to discover its voice, an era shaped not by haste or chaos, but by patience, precision, and a deep spiritual harmony with the land. Imagine standing on the cool desert ground as the first rays of sunlight spill over the dunes. The air is fresh, carrying the scent of warm stone and the faint sweetness of desert flowers that bloom briefly at dawn. Before you lies the Nile, steady and dependable, winding calmly through the landscape like a silver ribbon. The villages that once lay small and simple begin to transform into organized towns. Fields stretch in long, neat patterns along the riverbanks, and people move with serene purpose, preparing for the day's work. Now, imagine the first monumental structures rising from the earth. They begin humbly, flat, rectangular mastabas built from limestone blocks cut with simple tools. Workers arrive at dawn, their footsteps soft in the sand as they gather near the site. They form long, quiet lines to pass stones from hand to hand, each movement steady and deliberate. The air is filled with the soft tapping of chisels against rock, with murmurs of coordination, and with the gentle rustling of palm fiber ropes pulled taut. There is no shouting, no frenzy. Everything moves like a slow, coordinated breath. These mastabas mark the earliest attempts at monumental architecture, but soon ambition gently grows. The people look to the heavens, to the rising sun they worship, and feel inspired to reach upward. This desire gives birth to pyramids, not in a single moment, but through decades of experimentation, learning, and quiet determination. Imagine the early architects, seated under shaded awnings, sketching ideas onto smooth pieces of limestone. They study the stars, the equinox, the path of the sun, aligning their designs with the cosmos itself. To them, architecture is not merely construction. It is a bridge between the earthly domain and the divine, a physical echo of the celestial order they believe governs everything. Workers gather from nearby villages and from distant settlements, not as slaves but as skilled laborers who take pride in their craft. They live in carefully organized communities, comfortable, lively places with bakeries, workshops, and communal spaces where stories are shared in the warm evenings. Their lives are filled with tasks, but also with companionship and respect for the monumental purpose they serve. Imagine the workers preparing the limestone blocks at dawn. They wet the sand, allowing heavy sledges to glide more easily across the desert surface. Teams haul stones in unison, their movements synchronized as they hum soft chants that help them maintain rhythm. The sun warms their backs as they climb ramps built from earth and gravel, lifting stones one layer at a time. Each block placed is a moment preserved, a tiny piece of devotion set gently into the foundation of eternity. As the structure grows, the shape begins to change. The earliest pyramids are stepped, each layer visible like a giant staircase rising toward the sky. These steps symbolize ascension, a path for the soul of the king to climb toward the divine. The workers feel a quiet reverence as they build, aware that their task connects them to something larger than themselves, a cosmic order woven into stone. Nearby, priests perform morning rituals at small open-air shrines. They burn fragrant oils that release sweet smoke into the breeze. They recite hymns in slow, melodic tones, calling upon the gods to bless the construction and guide the souls of the departed. Their voices drift across the desert, mingling with the distant sound of chisels tapping rhythmically. Life around the pyramid sites is calm and predictable. At midday, when the sun warms the ground to shimmering brightness, workers rest under woven canopies, sharing bread, figs, and fresh water from clay jars cooled in the river. They laugh softly, exchange stories, and speak of the world beyond their villages, of distant oases, migrating birds, and the mysterious lands beyond the horizon. In the villages along the Nile, families continue their daily routines. Women grind grain with smooth stone tools, their movements rhythmic and soothing. Children play in the shade, drawing shapes in the sand with reeds. Farmers wade into the fields to check irrigation channels, listening to the soft burbling of water as it flows into neatly carved trenches. The entire world seems to move with a natural, unbroken harmony. As the pyramids rise higher, a deep sense of wonder permeates the land. People pause in their tasks to gaze at the towering structures glowing beneath the afternoon sun. They whisper that these monuments will last forever, surviving floods, storms, and generations of time. Though they cannot yet know how accurate their belief will be, they feel it deeply, certain that what they build today will speak silently to the future. And in the evenings, when the desert cools and long shadows stretch across the ground, the workers return to their villages. Fires flicker warmly in the gathering dusk, and families share meals beneath the darkening sky. The stars emerge one by one, bright, steady, guiding lights that the Egyptians study with reverence. They believe the heavens mirror the world of the gods, and that by aligning their monuments with these celestial patterns, they bring balance and eternal harmony to the earth. Imagine lying on the soft sand as night blankets the land. The pyramids stand tall in the distance, their angles sharp against the moonlit sky. A gentle breeze moves across the desert, carrying the faint scent of sage and warm earth. Crickets begin their soft night song, and the sound of distant water flowing down the Nile drifts peacefully through the air. Everything feels calm, timeless, as though the world itself has paused to breathe. This is Egypt in the Old Kingdom, not a realm of chaos, but a place of harmony, purpose, and quiet devotion. Every stone, every ritual, every river breeze carries a sense of balance. The pyramids are not yet the monumental wonders they will become, but their foundations, physical and spiritual, are being laid with care, patience, and reverence. As the night deepens and your mind sinks gently into the ancient stillness, the story prepares to drift once again, toward lands further east, where mysterious cities lie silent beneath the sands of time, waiting to whisper their secrets in the soft voice of history. As the warm glow of Egypt's Old Kingdom fades gently behind you, the landscape shifts once again, not abruptly, but slowly, like the unfolding of a distant memory. The desert sands soften into rolling plains, and the air takes on a stillness unlike anything you've felt before. You travel eastward, then south, drifting across faint currents of time until the world around you becomes lush, quiet, and strangely symmetrical. Here, far from the familiar temples of Egypt and the towering ziggurats of Mesopotamia, lies a civilization so peaceful, so meticulously ordered, that even today it feels wrapped in a cloak of soft mystery. This is the Indus Valley, a land shaped not by conquest or monumental kings, but by water, balance, and quiet human ingenuity. Imagine approaching the sprawling city of Mohenjo-Daro at sunrise. The first light washes over the horizon, illuminating a landscape that glimmers with dew. Birds flutter from rooftop to rooftop, their wings brushing against the cool morning air. The city itself emerges slowly, its layout neat and deliberate, as though designed with an architect's calm and meditative mind. Unlike the towering monuments of other ancient worlds, the buildings here stand low and uniform, constructed with perfect rectangular bricks, each one identical in size and shape, as though shaped by a quiet rhythm of hands working in harmony. The streets are wide and astonishingly straight, intersecting one another in perfect right angles. Drainage channels run alongside each road, carefully covered and meticulously maintained. As you walk through the city, you feel a sense of gentle order, as though every stone has been placed with intention, every corner shaped to invite ease rather than grandeur. The people of the Indus Valley move through their morning with effortless coordination. Women carry clay pots balanced gracefully on their hips, their footsteps soft against the smooth, worn streets. Children play near the raised platforms where merchants have begun arranging pottery, beads, and woven baskets. Their laughter is light and warm, mingling with the earthy scent of wet clay and fresh grain. A potter's wheel spins steadily nearby, its circular motion quiet and hypnotic as the craftsman shapes a smooth vessel with practiced fingers, the clay rising in a perfect spiral beneath his touch. As the sun climbs higher, the heart of the city awakens. Workers gather near the Great Bath, a large, sunken pool surrounded by clean, precise brickwork. Imagine standing near its edge, the water still, cool, and serene, reflecting the soft morning light like a pane of polished glass. This place likely held spiritual meaning, a quiet sanctuary where people gathered for rituals of purification, though no written records remain to confirm the details. The Indus script, carved onto countless seals and tablets, remains undeciphered, a gentle puzzle left behind by a people who valued subtlety over proclamation. The atmosphere here feels remarkably calm. Trade takes place with soft gestures and nods rather than raised voices. Merchants spread out their goods on woven mats, soapstone seals carved with delicate animal motifs, polished beads strung into graceful necklaces, and clay figurines shaped with tender care. The designs are simple yet deeply expressive: bulls with proud curved horns, elephants with thick, rounded bodies, and mythical creatures whose forms blur between reality and imagination. Throughout the city, water flows with purpose. Wells are dug deep into the earth, their inner walls lined with perfectly fitted bricks. Reservoirs sit at regular intervals, ensuring that the entire city remains hydrated even during dry seasons. The drainage system, so advanced that modern engineers still marvel at its ingenuity, carries waste away silently, keeping the air fresh and the streets clean. The people respect water not merely as a resource but as a partner in life, something to be guided gently rather than taken for granted. Imagine turning down a quiet residential lane. The houses are uniform yet welcoming, each with a rooftop that catches the gentle breeze drifting through the city. Inside, rooms are arranged around open courtyards where families gather to cook, craft, and rest. The scent of warm bread and roasted grains drifts through the narrow alleys. Soft voices hum as families share meals of lentils, wheat cakes, and fresh milk. Clay lamps flicker as they are lit inside the homes, their glow warm and soothing even during the daylight hours. As the afternoon settles and the sun begins its slow descent, the city takes on a meditative stillness. Workers step away from their tools. Merchants fold their cloths and sweep dust from their stalls. The clay figurines and carved seals are carefully stored away. Children gather on rooftops to watch the sky shift from gold to rose, pointing at birds soaring overhead and sharing quiet stories about the creatures carved into their toys. Beyond the city walls, fields stretch outward in neat, irrigated grids. Farmers move through the tall, swaying crops, gently brushing their hands over soft stalks of barley and wheat. The breeze carries the rhythmic rustle of leaves, blending with the distant murmur of river water flowing calmly along its path. The rivers, Indus, Ravi, Sutlej, and others, serve as lifelines, nourishing the soil and guiding traders to distant lands. Evening descends slowly, like a soft blanket pulled across the sky. Lamps are lit in the windows of houses, glowing like tiny constellations scattered across the city. Families gather for evening meals, their conversations calm and unhurried. From the rooftops, you can hear the low, melodic hum of people singing gentle tunes as they wind down from the day's work. The night sky above the Indus Valley is breathtakingly clear. Stars glimmer with delicate brilliance, forming patterns that early observers likely studied with quiet curiosity. Though no grand temples rise toward the heavens, the people's spirituality feels woven into their daily lives. Each structure, each brick, each flowing canal reflecting a deep commitment to balance, cleanliness, and harmony. In this silent cradle of forgotten innovation, time moves without urgency. Life unfolds gently, guided by simplicity and an unspoken respect for the land. And though the Indus civilization will eventually fade, its spirit, calm, orderly, and quietly profound, lingers like a soft echo through the ages. As you drift deeper into this tranquil world, the journey begins preparing to carry you onward, toward distant hills where new empires and ancient mysteries wait patiently beneath the soft hush of history. As you drift away from the silent, symmetrical cities of the Indus Valley, the world begins to shift once more, gently, like the turning of a page in an ancient, dust-covered book. The landscape slowly transforms into rolling hills, rugged plateaus, and distant mountains that frame the horizon in soft, shadowy silhouettes. The air feels slightly cooler here, carrying the scent of pine and the faint, metallic hint of worked bronze. You are entering a region alive with stories of early diplomacy, trade, and cultural blending, a crossroads where empires rose quietly and fell with equal subtlety. This is the realm of the Hittites and the vast, interconnected Bronze Age world. Imagine the approach to Hattusa, the Hittite capital, as the late afternoon light paints the stone walls with warm, honey-colored tones. The city rises from the earth like a careful arrangement of fortress shapes, its architecture both sturdy and elegant. Large stone gates guard the entrances, each one decorated with carvings of lions, sphinxes, or protective deities whose calm expressions have weathered centuries of wind and sun. Their presence feels reassuring rather than intimidating, as though standing watch with a gentle vigilance over the people within. As you pass through one of these gates, the air feels cooler, the streets shaded by tall stone buildings and the curves of defensive walls. The city moves at a steady pace, not rushed but purposeful. Metalworkers shape bronze tools in slow, rhythmic motions, their hammers creating a soft metallic whisper that carries through the narrow streets. Traders arrange goods on wooden platforms, sacks of grain, small jars of fragrant oils, carved bone ornaments, and carefully crafted chariots with wheels strengthened by layers of bronze fittings. The Hittites were masters of both war and negotiation, though their world rarely felt chaotic. Instead, imagine their society as one built on balance. Soldiers trained quietly in open courtyards, practicing the smooth draw of bows and the gentle swing of curved swords. Nearby, scribes sat beneath shaded alcoves, carving cuneiform symbols into clay tablets. These tablets recorded treaties, laws, and trade agreements, capturing the pulse of the Bronze Age world in neat, calming lines of script. The atmosphere is steady and harmonious. People move with the calm confidence of a culture that values structure and order. They tend to their homes, decorated with simple yet elegant furnishings made of wood and woven fibers. Children play near water channels, splashing gently as they float small carved boats down the gentle current. Their laughter is soft but clear, carried on the breeze that winds between stone houses. As you wander deeper into the city, the sounds of distant music reach your ears, a simple melody carried by reed flutes, accompanied by the gentle beat of small hand drums. The rhythm is soothing, echoing through the courtyards and giving the city a heartbeat of its own. The Hittites valued ritual and ceremony, yet their traditions feel grounded, practical, and centered around maintaining harmony between people and their gods. In the palace complex, the walls are adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes of kings meeting foreign envoys. One king might be shown clasping the hand of an Egyptian diplomat, symbolizing peace and cooperation across vast distances. The Hittites were among the first to create detailed diplomatic treaties, shaping a world where negotiation was as valued as strength. Imagine the great chariot teams practicing just outside the city walls. Their horses move in perfect unison, hooves pressing softly into the dirt, their harnesses jingling with bronze ornaments. The chariots glide smoothly across the ground, wheels turning with a quiet precision. The riders guide their horses with minimal motion, using soft clicks of the tongue and gentle pulls on the reins. Even in their preparation for battle, there is a strange beauty to the calm efficiency of their movements. Beyond the city, the land stretches into a landscape of gentle hills and winding paths. Caravans travel these routes, carrying goods between distant civilizations. Bronze ingots, precious stones, textiles, spices, and crafted ornaments move slowly across the continent in a vast network of trade. Imagine the peaceful hum of these caravans, the steady plodding of donkeys, the soft jingle of bells hanging from pack saddles, the murmur of merchants sharing quiet conversation beneath the broad sky. The Bronze Age world was deeply connected, its people linked by shared markets, technologies, and ideas. Yet each culture maintained its own unique identity, shaping its own quiet corner of history. The Hittites contributed laws that emphasized restitution over punishment, religious traditions blending local deities with those adopted from nearby cultures, and an appreciation of diplomacy that stretched beyond borders. As evening approaches, the city of Hattusa glows softly. Torches flicker along the stone walls, casting warm, wavering light that dances across intricate carvings. The sounds of daytime labor fade into the soft murmurs of nighttime life, families sharing meals, priests reciting gentle prayers, musicians offering slow, soothing melodies to the darkening sky. Even the wind seems to quiet itself as it touches the rooftops and slips between the narrow streets. Inside the temples, offerings are placed before statues carved with serene expressions. Bowls of grain, cups of wine, and small clay figurines rest at the foot of these ancient deities. Priests move gracefully through the chambers, their footsteps soft against the stone floors. They light small oil lamps, their flames flickering like stars caught in glass. The scent of burning cedar and fragrant herbs fills the air, drifting outward from the temple and spreading a sense of calm throughout the city. Step outside again and look upward as night fully settles. The sky above the Hittite lands is expansive and dark, speckled with countless stars that shimmer like tiny fires scattered across the heavens. Travelers along the distant trade routes pause to marvel at the same stars, their quiet breaths rising into the cool air of the evening. The world feels connected by the vast sky, a shared canopy beneath which countless cultures drift peacefully through the night. The breeze carries faint echoes of distant stories, tales of merchants navigating winding mountain paths, of kings exchanging gentle words during solemn ceremonies, of artisans crafting bronze treasures in quiet workshops lit by oil lamps. The Bronze Age thrives not through conquest alone, but through cooperation, exchange, and an unspoken understanding of shared existence. As you breathe softly and let the calm sweep over you, the world slowly prepares to shift again. The network of trade and diplomacy that binds this time together will soon tremble under forces no one expects. But for now, in this moment suspended in tranquility, the Bronze Age rests gently beneath the vast, star-filled sky, waiting for its next turn in history's long and peaceful drift through time. As the last echoes of the Bronze Age's steady rhythms fade into the distance, the world around you begins to shift in a way that is almost imperceptible at first, subtle, like the faint tremor of wind moving through tall grass or the quiet sigh of a tired river easing its way toward the sea. The civilizations connected by trade, trust, and patient craftsmanship continue their peaceful patterns, unaware that the wide web linking them is growing fragile, thread by delicate thread. The calm is still there, stretching across the land like a warm blanket, but beneath it, something gentle and restless begins to stir. Imagine standing on a quiet hill overlooking a broad valley where farms once thrived in harmony. The fields still sway in the breeze, but the air carries a cooler undertone, as if hinting at distant changes. The sky above remains clear, painted in soft shades of blue, yet a sense of vast uncertainty drifts just beyond the horizon. It is not a storm that approaches, nor the roar of armies, only a slow, unsettling shift, like a long-forgotten lullaby changing key in the night. This is the beginning of the Bronze Age collapse, though such a phrase did not exist in the minds of the people living through it. They felt only the smallest disruptions at first. A few trade caravans arriving late. A particular metal shipment that never reached its destination. A season of crops that grew differently than expected. People continued with their daily routines, shaping pottery, tending fields, carving stone seals, weaving cloth, unaware that these tiny ripples would soon expand into quiet waves that touched every corner of their interconnected world. Imagine a port city along the Mediterranean coast. The harbor is usually filled with wooden ships carrying copper, tin, spices, oils, and crafted goods. But today, the water lies still, reflecting an empty expanse of horizon. The wind blows softly through unused ropes, making them sway and creak against the wooden docks. Merchants stand waiting, their voices subdued. They speak of distant storms or delays, offering reassurance to one another, yet a soft uncertainty lingers in their eyes. Travel inland and you might find a small village near a once bustling trade route. The path is quiet now, overgrown in places, with fewer travelers passing through. A shepherd watches his flock with a sense of unease he cannot quite name. Stories drift from village to village, of markets running out of bronze, of blacksmiths having less to forge, of strange groups of migrants moving slowly across distant lands. Yet daily life continues, wrapped in the calm repetition of chores, meals, rest, and gentle conversation beneath the stars. In more distant lands, a dry season lasts a little too long. Rivers shrink, their currents whispering over exposed stones. Farmers bend over parched soil, planting seeds with hope that the next season will be kinder. They look to the sky for signs, for clouds that drift a little heavier, for breezes carrying the scent of rain. Priests offer quiet prayers, lighting incense and placing small offerings at the feet of weathered statues. The rituals remain soothing, grounding, even as uncertainty flickers in the edges of their minds. Meanwhile, in great palaces and administrative centers, scribes continue recording daily affairs, ship logs, tax lists, storehouse inventories, but the clay tablets begin to fill with new kinds of notes. Grain shortages, delayed shipments, unusual movements of people near borders, requests for more guards along trade routes. Each entry feels small on its own, but together they paint a picture of a world beginning to tilt ever so slightly off balance. And yet, throughout these subtle changes, the tone remains peaceful. The people do not panic. They adapt, adjust, hope. Life continues at its steady pace. Evening fires are lit, warm meals are shared in quiet homes, children laugh as they chase each other through narrow streets, and elders sit beneath trees telling stories of gods and heroes. There is comfort in routine, a soft reassurance that life moves forward as it always has. But slowly, like a tapestry unraveling thread by thread, the great network of the Bronze Age begins to loosen. The tin trade, the lifeblood of bronze, grows unreliable. Some regions turn inward, conserving their resources. Others experience gentle unrest as new groups migrate, seeking fertile land or stable communities. These movements are not violent waves but slow, persistent currents, reshaping the flow of populations across lands that once felt steady. Imagine a lone watchtower overlooking a mountain pass. The guards stationed there watches travelers approach from afar, families carrying their belongings on simple carts, wrapped in cloth against the changing winds. Their faces show weariness, but also determination. They move quietly, seeking refuge or opportunity, bringing new languages, tools, and customs with them. The guard offers them water, bread, and calm instructions on where they might find rest. There is no hostility, only the gentle passing of people from one world into another. As months turn into years, entire cities begin to change. Some become quieter, their once busy streets now carrying fewer footsteps. Markets close earlier in the day. Workshops fall silent as metals become scarce. In places, stone buildings sit half-completed, tools left where they were last used. Grass grows in abandoned pathways, not out of sudden destruction, but through slow, natural retreat. Yet amid these changes, beauty remains. Fields still glow green under the sun. Rivers still move with calm determination. The sky still spreads across the earth in a vast, comforting dome of light. The world is shifting but not collapsing in chaos, rather settling into a new shape, a new rhythm. Imagine standing on a hill overlooking the land as dusk settles. The fading sunlight paints the earth in shades of gold and lavender. A breeze moves gently across your skin, carrying the soft scent of distant fires and evening meals. You hear the quiet laughter of a family nearby, the calm bleating of goats returning to their pens, the rhythmic call of night birds awakening. The world remains peaceful, held together by the simple continuity of human life. In time, these subtle changes will give rise to new cultures, new languages, new myths. The end of the Bronze Age is not truly an end, but a gentle turning, a shift from one chapter of human history into another. And in this twilight moment, this soft, slow transition, the ancient world rests, suspended in the quiet space between what was and what will come next. As you breathe deeply and let the calm of this distant age wash over you, you feel yourself drifting toward the next land, the next story, the next whisper of ancient time waiting patiently in the shadows of unfolding history. As the gentle twilight of the Bronze Age settles behind you, the winds of time shift softly once again, guiding you eastward into a land shaped by mist, mountains, bamboo forests, and ancient rivers whose names have echoed across millennia. The world becomes quieter, as though wrapped in a delicate veil of early dawn fog. Crickets murmur subtly in the undergrowth. The air grows cooler, touched by the scent of pine and distant rain. You have arrived in the cradle of early China, long before emperors, long before dynasties, back when legends and humans walked side by side in whispered stories shared around warm firelight. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast valley as the first pale glow of morning slips through the mist. The land feels ancient, untouched yet full of life. Rolling hills rise gently from the earth, their slopes covered with thick groves of bamboo that sway softly in the morning breeze. The sound of their hollow stalks tapping against one another creates a calming, rhythmic melody, nature's own lullaby. Down below, in small clusters along the riverbanks, early communities begin their day. The Yellow River flows steadily, its waters carrying traces of distant mountains where snowmelt begins its long journey toward the valleys. Farmers emerge from their homes, stepping onto the cool, damp earth with a sense of reverence for the land that sustains them. Their tools are simple, shaped from stone and wood, but their movements display practiced harmony with the soil and seasons. Women gather wild grains and berries near the forest edge, their baskets filling slowly as morning light strengthens. Children chase one another through patches of tall grass, their laughter rising softly into the air. Elders sit near the entrances of their wooden homes, watching the sunrise with calm familiarity. The smoke from morning fires drifts gently upward, curling into the mist like delicate brushstrokes painted across the sky. Life here moves at a quiet, unhurried pace. These early people do not yet know of the dynasties that will one day shape their land. They live in close connection with nature, believing the world to be filled with spirits, mountain spirits, river guardians, sky ancestors, each one guiding the balance of life. Their world is woven with myths that explain the rhythms of water, the shapes of constellations, and the ways people should treat one another. Imagine sitting beside them at dusk as a storyteller begins to share one of the oldest tales, stories of great culture heroes whose lives feel half human and half divine. One such figure is the Yellow Emperor, a wise leader who, legend says, taught people to build shelters, tame animals, and create the first musical instruments. His story is told with reverence, each word spoken slowly, as though honoring a memory passed down through countless generations. The soft glow of the fire illuminates the storyteller's face, and the shadows dance gently behind him in rhythm with his voice. Another tale follows the life of Yu the Great, a hero remembered not for conquest, but for patience and endurance. Imagine the river swelling far beyond its banks, flooding fields and villages. In the soft, dreamlike haze of ancient memory, Yu appears, steady, calm, determined. Instead of fighting the water, he learns from it. He studies its patterns, its movements, its quiet intentions. With slow, deliberate work, he digs channels, diverts flows, and helps the river find its natural course. Villages are saved not by force, but by understanding, a theme that would shape Chinese philosophy for centuries. The people listening to these stories nod slowly, comforted by the quiet wisdom woven into them. For them, legends are not merely entertainment, they are reflections of nature's harmony and teachings from ancestors who walked the land long before their time. As the fire crackles softly, the night deepens, revealing a sky filled with bright, scattered stars. The constellations shimmer above the valley like delicate brushstrokes across a dark canvas. Early astronomers among them trace the patterns with their fingers, watching how the stars shift with each passing season. As days turn to nights and nights into new dawns, the early Chinese world slowly grows more complex. Communities expand along the river valleys, building stronger homes with wooden beams and packed earth walls. They craft fine pottery with soft, curved shapes and elegant patterns inspired by swirling clouds, flowing water, and curling vines. Their vessels, polished to a gentle sheen, sit in rows outside workshops where potters work quietly, spinning clay on simple wheels. The soft hum of their hands shaping the earth adds another layer of calm to this peaceful world. Trade begins to blossom, though still in its earliest forms. Families exchange grains, woven cloth, herbal medicines, and carved ornaments. Gentle negotiations take place in shaded gathering spaces, where elders mediate disputes with patience and soft-spoken authority. No kings rule here yet, only respected leaders chosen for their wisdom and for the steadiness of their character. Their role is to maintain balance, not command power. Even in these early days, spiritual practices begin to take form. People place small carved figurines near their doorways to invite harmony, luck, and protection. They leave simple offerings at shrines nestled between rocks or beneath ancient trees. These offerings, bowls of grain, fragrant leaves, smooth stones, are small gestures of gratitude toward the natural world that sustains them. The rituals are not solemn or heavy, they are gentle, rhythmic acts of connection. At times, the land is covered by a soft blanket of fog that rolls through the valley like a wandering spirit. The mist clings to the bamboo leaves and settles on the wooden rooftops, creating a world that feels suspended between dream and reality. In such moments, everything becomes quieter. The birds, the wind, even the river seems to soften its voice. The people pause in their work, breathing in the cool, refreshing air, sensing that they are part of something ancient and vast. Night returns with its familiar peace. Lanterns glow inside simple homes, casting warm golden light across carefully swept floors. Families gather around small wooden tables, sharing bowls of rice porridge, wild vegetables, and steaming herbs steeped into soothing teas. The conversations are soft, unhurried, like ripples moving gently across a calm lake. Outside, the sounds of the valley shift into their nighttime melody, the rustling of bamboo, the whisper of wind sliding down the hills, the steady pulse of the river continuing its eternal flow. This ancient, pre-dynastic world is not marked by grandeur, but by harmony. It is a place where stories shape understanding, where nature offers guidance, and where life unfolds slowly, like the graceful stroke of a calligraphy brush moving across silk. And as you breathe into the stillness of this moment, the journey prepares to drift forward, toward the first great dynasties, where bronze, oracles, and cosmic order will rise gently from these early roots. As the early legends and mist-wrapped valleys of ancient China drift gently behind you, time begins to move forward with the quiet turning of an unseen wheel. The landscape brightens under a rising sun, revealing settlements that have grown larger, more organized, and subtly more intricate. Wooden homes stand side by side in careful rows, fields spread outward in neat rectangles, and smoke from distant hearths curls lazily into the morning sky. Something is changing here, slowly, patiently, like the steady growth of bamboo after a spring rain. You have entered the world of the Shang and Zhou, a realm where bronze gleams beneath torchlight, ancestors speak through symbols pressed into bone, and the first great philosophies of China begin to form their gentle contours. Imagine walking through a Shang settlement in the early morning. The air carries the scent of damp earth and warm ash, and the ground beneath your feet is firm, packed by generations of footsteps. Villagers begin their day with calm purpose. Women grind grain between smooth stones, creating soft rhythmic sounds that echo faintly across the open courtyards. Men prepare fields for planting, their movements synchronized with the sun's slow ascent. Children chase one another between narrow alleys, their laughter floating through the cool air like the delicate chime of distant bells. The Shang people are skilled in the art of bronze, and their workshops glow with quiet activity. Enter one of these dimly lit spaces and feel the warmth radiating from small furnaces built from molded clay. Craftsmen tend the fires with gentle hands, adding charcoal and fanning the flames until the bronze glows a soft, molten orange. They pour the shimmering metal into carefully carved molds, creating vessels, tools, and ornaments etched with curling patterns inspired by animals and spirits. The work is slow and meditative, requiring absolute focus and respect. When the bronze cools, they polish each piece until it shines smoothly beneath their fingertips, reflecting the glow of lanterns that sway softly overhead. Nearby, another aspect of Shang culture unfolds, the quiet, sacred practice of oracle bone divination. Imagine stepping into a modest, shaded building where the air is still and reverent. At the center, a priest kneels over a turtle shell or the shoulder bone of an ox. The surface is smooth and pale, prepared with careful scraping and washing. Using a heated metal rod, the priest touches the bone, causing it to crack in thin, branching lines. These cracks, delicate and natural, whisper messages believed to come from ancestors or deities. The priest studies each line with calm concentration, interpreting its meaning before pressing small symbols, early characters, into the bone. These markings represent questions asked by kings or nobles. Will the harvest flourish? Will the rains come soon? Is the journey safe? The characters are simple yet powerful. They carry the first written traces of a language that will one day shape an entire civilization. The atmosphere in the room remains hushed, as though the walls themselves listen to the murmured prayers drifting through the space. As the sun climbs higher, the world outside becomes livelier. Horses neigh from wooden stables, their hooves tapping rhythmically against the earth. Chariots, light and sleek, stand poised nearby, symbols of both prestige and coordination. Their wheels are bound with bronze fittings that gleam softly in the sunlight. The sound of leather straps being adjusted, of horses breathing calmly as they prepare for training, adds to the gentle melody of daily life. Travel beyond the settlements and you find sprawling fields tended with an almost musical rhythm. Farmers move through rows of millet, barley, and wheat, guiding water from canals carved carefully into the ground. The breeze carries the scent of growing crops and the distant hum of insects dancing above the plants. Everything here is rooted in balance, between work and rest, between people and land, between past and present. As the Shang era fades and the Zhou rise quietly into power, the landscape becomes even more structured. Villages connect into towns, towns into regional centers, each one mapped with care. Rituals take on new meanings, shaped by a concept that will guide Chinese thought for thousands of years: the mandate of heaven. Imagine a Zhou elder explaining this idea under the shade of an ancient tree. His voice is soft, steady, carrying the calm certainty of generations. He explains that rulers are not chosen by birth alone, but by heaven's approval. When a leader governs with kindness, justice, and respect, the world remains harmonious. Rains fall when needed, crops grow, and people live in peace. But if a ruler becomes corrupt or cruel, heaven withdraws its mandate. Nature responds, rivers flood, droughts stretch across the fields, and society feels unbalanced. Leadership, he explains, is not power but responsibility, an agreement between heaven, earth, and the people who live upon it. This belief shapes everything. It influences how decisions are made, how communities are guided, how rituals are performed. Even the architecture reflects this harmony. Homes are built with symmetry, altars are placed carefully, and courtyards are designed to catch just the right amount of sun and breeze. Each detail is considered, not for extravagance, but for balance. As evening approaches, the Shang and Zhou world transforms into a glowing tapestry of lantern light and soft shadows. In small family courtyards, meals are shared with gentle conversation, bowls of steamed grains, vegetables flavored with herbs, and fragrant broths simmered throughout the afternoon. Children sit cross-legged as grandparents tell stories of dragons curled beneath rivers, of phoenixes rising from fire, of ancient ancestors who guide and protect the family. Music drifts through the air, melodies from bronze bells, bamboo flutes, and soft-stringed instruments. Their tones mingle with the night wind, soothing and delicate, like a lullaby woven by the earth itself. Above, the stars emerge in clear, shimmering patterns. Early astronomers lift their faces to the sky, noting the positions of constellations and the arc of the moon. They look for signs, patterns that predict seasons, signals that guide planting and harvest. Their observations are quiet, focused, and full of reverence for the cosmic order they feel unfolding overhead. Night deepens, settling softly over the land. The bronze vessels cool. The oracle bones rest. The fields lie still beneath the moon's gentle glow. The world sleeps in calm unity, past, present, and heaven connected in delicate harmony. And as you breathe into this peaceful world, the journey prepares to drift toward new lands and forgotten kingdoms, where the Levant and Anatolia wait with stories that glow softly beneath the dust of time. As the gentle harmony of the Shang and Zhou fades softly behind you, the world begins to shift once more, carried on a warm breeze that drifts westward across mountains, valleys, and winding rivers. The air becomes drier, touched by the scent of sun-warmed stone and desert winds. The sky widens into a soft, endless blue. You are entering the lands of Anatolia and the Levant, regions where smaller kingdoms once thrived quietly between the great powers of the ancient world, shaping history not through size, but through subtle influence, trade, and quiet cultural brilliance. Imagine walking across a plateau in the early morning light. The ground beneath your feet is rough and scattered with small stones that glitter faintly in the sun. Rolling hills stretch into the distance, dotted with hardy shrubs and wildflowers that sway gently in the breeze. The air carries a calm stillness, as though this land holds centuries of stories whispered only to those who listen patiently. As you approach a small settlement belonging to the Mitanni, you sense the peaceful rhythm of daily life unfolding. Their homes are simple, constructed from stone and timber, yet warm and inviting, each with small courtyards where families gather. The people move with quiet purpose. Women grind grain on large flat stones, singing softly as they work. Their voices blend into the warm air, becoming part of the landscape itself. Men tend to horses grazing along the hillsides, brushing their coats with calm, steady hands. The Mitanni were renowned for their knowledge of horsemanship, training their animals with patience instead of force. You hear the soft snorts of the horses, the gentle clack of hooves against dry earth, the whispers of leather reins sliding between careful fingers. In the distance, you might hear a flute, a simple wooden instrument played by a shepherd watching his flock. The tune drifts over the hills like a lullaby, comforting and timeless. It is the kind of melody that has no beginning and no end, as though carried across generations without ever needing to be written down. Continue your quiet journey and the land shifts again, guiding you toward the Levant, where ancient seafaring peoples once lived along the sunlit Mediterranean coast. The air carries a faint tang of salt now, mixed with the scent of warm cedar. The ground slopes downward and the sound of waves begins to drift toward you, rhythmic and soothing. When you reach the shore, you see long, narrow boats carved from sturdy wood, their hulls polished smooth by saltwater and time. These are the lands of the Phoenicians, master sailors, skilled traders, and patient craftsmen. Their towns rest along the coast like small jewels placed between sea and stone. As you step into one, the atmosphere feels vibrant yet peaceful. Merchants arrange baskets of purple-dyed cloth, shimmering in the sunlight with deep, rich hues. Potters stack rows of jars glazed in warm, earthy tones. Carpenters carve delicate designs into cedarwood panels, their tools creating soft, steady scraping sounds that blend with the gentle murmur of nearby waves. The Phoenicians communicate with quiet efficiency as they prepare their ships for trade. Sailors coil ropes with practiced movements while others load baskets filled with glass beads, fine textiles, olive oil, and fragrant resins. Every action has a calm precision, shaped by generations of experience navigating the vast and unpredictable sea. As they set sail, the ships glide smoothly over the water, their sails catching the warm wind as the horizon stretches endlessly before them. Further inland, the Arameans move through the desert routes with equal calm. These wandering traders guide caravans filled with spices, incense, metalwork, and woven goods. The soft padding of camel feet creates a slow, rhythmic sound that echoes across the quiet desert. Bells tied around the camels' necks jingle gently, like distant wind chimes. At night, when the caravan stops to rest, fires are lit and stories are shared under a sky shimmering with countless stars. Their voices remain low, soothing as they recount tales of distant lands, friendly exchanges, and the wisdom of ancestors who taught them the paths through the desert. Across these regions, life unfolds not in dramatic battles or towering monuments, but in the subtle ways people interact with their land and with one another. Their contributions are woven into the fabric of ancient history, small threads of innovation, trade, language, and culture that hold great civilizations together. Even the alphabets we know today have roots in these lands. Imagine a scribe sitting quietly in a shaded room, pressing simple lines and shapes onto parchment or clay. The letters are humble and unadorned, designed not for grandeur but for clarity. These early symbols will eventually influence writing systems used across continents, yet their creation feels peaceful and intimate, born from the desire to communicate gently and simply across distances. As day drifts into evening, the hills and coastlines soften under the fading light. Shepherds guide their flocks back to stone enclosures. Merchants close their stalls, covering their goods with woven cloths that flutter softly in the breeze. Along the water, fishermen pull their nets ashore, their silhouettes blending into the golden glow of sunset. The sky slowly shifts from warm amber to soft violet, then to deep, comforting blue. Night settles quietly over Anatolia and the Levant. Lamps flicker inside homes, spreading gentle circles of warm light across stone floors. Families gather for meals of bread, olives, roasted grains, and fragrant herbs. Stories drift through the air, stories of gods who protect sailors at sea, of spirits that wander the desert, of creatures that live deep within mountain caves. These tales are not frightening but soothing, shared to pass wisdom from one generation to the next. Outside, the stars shine clearly, forming patterns early travelers once used to navigate both land and sea. The wind calms. The waves whisper softly against the shore. Even the desert seems to sigh as it cools under the moon's pale glow. In these quiet kingdoms, Mitanni, Phoenicians, Arameans, life flowed like gentle water, carving its place in history not with force, but with patience, creativity, and soft resilience. And as you breathe into this tranquil world, the path ahead begins to unfold again, guiding you toward olive groves, rolling islands, and the earliest whispers of ancient Greece. As you drift softly away from the sun-washed coasts of the Levant, the warm breeze of the Mediterranean follows you, carrying with it the scent of saltwater, crushed herbs, and distant islands scattered across a shimmering blue expanse. The sea stretches before you like a vast sheet of glass, gently rippling under the soft glow of early morning light. A small wooden vessel glides across the water, its sail catching the wind with elegant ease, guiding you toward a world that feels both peaceful and quietly enchanted. This is the realm of ancient Greece long before its golden age, long before marble temples and legendary philosophers, an era shaped by mysterious palaces, quiet island communities, and stories whispered in the language of waves and olive groves. The boat moves steadily toward the island of Crete, where the Minoans crafted a world unlike any other. As the shoreline draws closer, you see buildings rising gently from the hills, soft beige walls with red-topped columns, their shapes flowing naturally with the landscape. The architecture feels airy and open, more like an invitation than a fortress. Birds circle lazily overhead. The harbor is calm, dotted with fishermen preparing nets and merchants loading baskets of fresh fruit, pottery, and woven cloth dyed in shades of red and blue. As you step ashore, the stone beneath your feet feels warm from the morning sun. Narrow pathways lead you toward Knossos, the heart of Minoan life. The palace complex appears gradually, not as a single monument, but as a graceful collection of rooms, open courtyards, staircases, and balconies that create a feeling of gentle labyrinthine flow. The walls are painted with vibrant frescoes, images of dolphins leaping through turquoise waves, women with flowing skirts dancing with graceful poise, and slender youths engaged in elegant athletic displays. These scenes feel alive, filled with movement and warmth, as if capturing moments that continue to unfold even after thousands of years. Inside the palace, the air grows cool and softly scented with traces of olive oil lamps and dried herbs. Craftsmen work in side chambers, carving elegant seals from stone, shaping ceramic vessels with spiral designs inspired by the sea, and preparing offerings for rituals that honor ancient goddesses of nature and fertility. Their hands move with calm precision, following techniques passed down through generations. The sound of their tools, the gentle scrape of stone, the rhythmic tap of wooden mallets, blends seamlessly with the ambient quiet of the palace interior. Step out onto a balcony and listen to the faint murmur of life below. The Minoans were a peaceful people, their society flourishing through trade rather than warfare. Ships leave the harbor regularly, guided by steady winds toward Egypt, Cyprus, and the Levant. These voyages carry pottery, saffron, metal ingots, and a unique spirit of openness that binds Crete to distant lands. From up here, the sea seems endless, a realm of possibilities stroked gently by the breeze. The island rests in a balance of beauty, creativity, and quiet ritual. As the sun moves higher, shadows shift along the palace walls, and you begin your journey northward across the Aegean Sea. The water shimmers like scattered jewels, reflecting the islands that rise from the horizon like soft blue silhouettes. Your vessel glides past rocky shores lined with olive trees, their leaves whispering softly in the wind. Small villages sit high on the cliffs, their whitewashed walls glowing in the afternoon light. Fishermen mend nets along the beaches, while women gather fresh figs and herbs growing wild near the water's edge. Eventually, the gentle waves guide you toward the mainland, where the world of the Mycenaeans begins to unfold. Here, the land feels different, still beautiful but stronger, more grounded, shaped by hills and ancient stone. As you approach the great citadel of Mycenae, massive walls rise before you, built from enormous stones fitted together with a silent, enduring strength. Yet there is no harshness in this place, only the calm weight of history resting upon solid foundations. Imagine walking along the entrance to the citadel, where two guardian lions stand carved in relief above the gate. Their forms are powerful yet graceful, watching over the city with a timeless vigilance. Inside, the pathways lead you to circular burial chambers where gold masks once covered the faces of kings. The air is cool and still, holding on to the whispers of countless generations. The Mycenaeans valued honor, tradition, and quiet endurance. Their world was one of craftsmanship and careful planning, where artisans shaped fine weapons, decorated pottery, and ornaments of gold with remarkable precision. Life unfolds here with a rhythm that feels steady and ordered. Farmers tend terraced fields that climb the hillsides. Shepherds guide flocks through narrow valleys. Families gather around low fires in stone courtyards, sharing meals of roasted grains, olives, cheese, and fresh herbs. As evening approaches, the scent of smoke and wild rosemary drifts gently across the landscape, mingling with the faint rustling of grass stirred by the night breeze. Far from these citadels, the earliest myths of Greece begin to take form, stories passed along by travelers, poets, and elders sitting beside hearths glowing with warm, flickering light. They speak of gods who walk among mortals, of spirits that dwell in springs, caves, and mountains, and of heroes whose deeds ripple softly through memory rather than roar with conquest. These tales are simple now, unshaped by later epics, still rooted in the rhythms of nature and the quiet wonder of the world. The myths drift like smoke into the sky, weaving their way across villages and islands, carried by the voices of those who believe them. As night drapes itself over the Aegean world, lanterns flicker inside modest homes built from stone and timber. Fishermen return from the sea, their boats rocking gently in the darkening water. The stars emerge one by one, bright and sharp against the deep blue sky. From a hillside, you can see the constellations reflected on the quiet surface of the sea below, shimmering like ancient symbols carved into the water. The Mycenaean citadel stands silent beneath the moon, their stones glowing faintly in the cool night air. The Minoan palaces rest in tranquil stillness, frescoes hidden in the soft shadows. Across the islands and valleys, life continues in calm, steady cycles, guided by the sea, the seasons, and the stories told beneath starlit skies. And as you breathe deeply into this serene world, you feel the journey gently preparing to shift again, toward the rising voices of philosophers, poets, and seekers of wisdom who will soon reshape this land into the cradle of classical thought. As the gentle echoes of the early Aegean fade behind you, time drifts forward like a soft tide moving across polished stone. The world around you begins to shift once again, carried on a warm breeze that brushes past olive trees, marble cliffs, and quiet harbors where small wooden boats sway with the rhythm of the sea. The air feels lighter here, touched by the scent of thyme and distant hills warmed by the afternoon sun. You are entering ancient Greece at a tender moment, before the clamoring of empires, before the rise of bustling cities, yet on the threshold of an awakening that will shape human thought for centuries. Imagine walking along a narrow path that winds through peaceful groves of olive trees. Their silvery leaves shimmer softly in the sunlight, whispering secrets each time the wind passes through. The ground is warm beneath your feet, dotted with wildflowers and herbs growing in the shade of twisted trunks that have stood here for generations. Shepherds lead their flocks across gentle slopes, their voices low and relaxed, blending into the soft bleating of sheep and the distant hum of cicadas hidden in the grass. Eventually, the path leads you toward a small hill overlooking a quiet settlement. Clay-roofed homes cluster together in simple harmony. Smoke rises lazily from rooftops, drifting upward in soft spirals. The air carries faint notes of freshly baked bread, crushed olives, and simmering herbs from evening kitchens. Life here is peaceful, slow, deliberate, shaped by the rhythm of seasons, harvests, and stories shared beneath the open sky. Beneath a canopy of olive trees just outside the village, a group of curious thinkers gathers. They sit on smooth stones scattered naturally around a large, ancient tree. The shade cools the air and softens the light, creating a space that feels both grounded and sacred. Here, early philosophy begins, not in grand halls or marble temples, but in the gentle murmur of conversation carried on the breeze. One of the elders speaks softly, his voice steady and soothing. He asks simple questions. What is goodness? What is truth? What guides the movement of stars? Those listening do not rush to answer. Instead, they contemplate in silence, gazing at the patterns of sunlight dancing through the leaves. Their thoughts move slowly, like ripples spreading across a calm pond. This gentle questioning grows into something deeper over time, flowing from hilltops to city centers, from shaded groves to peaceful courtyards. Soon you find yourself in Athens, not bustling or noisy, but still forming. Quiet streets lined with stone homes, craftsmen working in shaded workshops, and children chasing one another along narrow paths that smell faintly of warm dust and sweet figs. Here, the seeds planted by early thinkers begin to bloom. Imagine Socrates walking through the agora at sunset. His robe brushes lightly against the stone pathway, and his steps are steady, unhurried. The marketplace around him hums with soft, familiar sounds, potters shaping clay, merchants negotiating in gentle tones, musicians plucking strings that float into the summer air. Yet Socrates moves calmly among them, asking questions with a patient curiosity. His voice is warm, inviting, never forceful. He speaks not to challenge or unsettle, but to encourage reflection. He treats conversation like a shared journey, a slow walk through a landscape of ideas where everyone has something valuable to offer. Students gather around him, listening closely as he explores concepts of justice, virtue, and the nature of the soul. They sit on the steps of a stone fountain, or beneath the shade of a date palm, breathing in the warm scent of water and fruit. The conversations are not debates but calm exchanges, thoughts shared gently, like passing a clay cup filled with cool spring water. Later on, in a quiet courtyard lit by the fading glow of evening lanterns, a young philosopher named Plato writes slowly on a wax tablet. His thoughts flow like the soft breeze rolling through the open windows, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers. He records dialogues that preserve the voices of his teachers, weaving together ideas that will echo through time. The courtyard is silent except for the gentle scratch of his stylus and the rustle of vines brushing against the stone walls. As the night deepens, you journey onward to the Lyceum, where Aristotle walks through shaded gardens at dawn. Birds sing from the high branches of fig trees, and the morning air feels cool against your skin. Aristotle observes everything with calm attentiveness: the structure of leaves, the movement of insects, the behavior of animals grazing nearby. Knowledge, for him, is a soft unfolding, a quiet understanding of the natural world's gentle patterns. Students follow him slowly, carrying scrolls and tablets. They pause whenever Aristotle stops to examine a flower, a piece of bark, or a small pebble shaped by centuries of water. His lessons blend observation with reflection, encouraging his students to explore the world with curiosity that feels both grounded and serene. Beyond philosophy, Greek myths bloom gently in the quiet hearts of the people. Stories of Athena, goddess of wisdom, drift through the air like soft lullabies. She emerges not as a warrior but as a calm, guiding presence, her owl perched nearby, its quiet gaze steady and knowing. Prometheus appears in stories too, offering the gift of fire not as rebellion, but as a symbol of hope and creativity. Hermes dances through tales like a whisper of wind, bringing messages that glimmer with quiet magic. The Muses, gentle inspirers of art and poetry, drift through these stories like soft breezes on a warm evening, guiding poets who sit beside the sea, writing verses warmed by starlight. As night settles gently over Greece, lanterns glow inside modest homes. The sea laps softly against rocky shores, its rhythm steady and soothing. Philosophers sit on warm stone steps outside their doorways, sharing final thoughts before the stars take their place in the sky. Conversations slow. Rooms dim. The air cools. Silence deepens. Above, constellations shimmer with delicate clarity. Early astronomers point out shapes and patterns, tracing them with their fingers as if drawing lines between distant, glowing embers. Their voices are hushed, thoughtful, shaped by wonder rather than certainty. The entire world seems to breathe in harmony, the sea, the sky, the groves, the minds seeking quiet truth. Ancient Greece rests not in the noise of later glory, but in the calm unfolding of thought, myth, and gentle discovery. And as you breathe into this stillness, the journey prepares once again to drift onward, toward rising eastern lands where order, tolerance, and quiet magnificence await under the vast and peaceful Persian sky. As the soft glow of philosophical Greece fades gently behind you, the world begins to stretch outward across wide, ancient plains. The air warms slightly, carrying with it the faintest hints of incense, distant mountains, and stone roads that stretch so far into the horizon they seem to dissolve into the pale morning light. You are entering the vast heart of the Persian Empire, a realm not built upon noise and chaos, but on order, structure, and a quiet magnificence that moved like a steady tide across deserts and valleys. Imagine walking along one of the royal roads, the stone surface warm beneath your feet, the edges lined with low shrubs and wildflowers stirred by a soft breeze. The road is wide and well kept, stretching so straight that even the rising sun seems to follow its path. Travelers move along it at an easy pace, messengers on horseback, merchants guiding carts, and families journeying between towns. Their footsteps fall with gentle rhythm, echoing faintly across the open expanse. Along the road, stone markers stand like silent guardians, each placed with care to guide those who pass. In the distance, a cluster of buildings emerges, low and elegant, their courtyards shaded by tall cypress trees. This is a way station, built to offer rest for weary travelers. Inside its cool halls, servants provide fresh water, warm bread, and a moment of peace before the journey continues. The Persian Empire understood the value of comfort and order, not as luxuries but as essential threads holding their world together. As you continue onward, the landscape unfolds like a serene mosaic. Fields ripple with golden wheat, their stalks swaying in slow waves beneath the steady wind. Beyond them, orchards bloom with figs, pomegranates, and apricots, their sweet scents mingling in the warm air. Farmers work quietly, using ancient tools shaped with precision. Their movements are steady, graceful, and practiced, each gesture reflecting generations of tradition. In the shadow of distant mountains lies Persepolis, rising like a dream carved from stone and sunlight. As you approach, the city seems to shimmer, its columns reaching upward with proud simplicity. Wide staircases guide you gently toward terraces adorned with intricate carvings, row after row of figures from across the empire, each carved with serene expressions. They are not warriors locked in battle, but dignitaries bringing gifts, horses, textiles, vessels, precious metals, symbolizing unity across the empire's many lands. Imagine passing through these grand terraces in the quiet of early morning. The shadows fall long and soft across the polished stone. The walls glow faintly under the sunlight, their carvings telling stories in silence, stories of respect, order, and the gentle strength of cooperation. The sound of your footsteps seems to echo far into the halls, blending with the distant call of birds perched atop the columns. Inside the palace complex, everything carries a sense of balance. Workers sweep the floors with deliberate strokes, their movements even and soothing. Officials discuss matters of trade and law in calm, measured tones. The breeze flows through open courtyards, cooling the air as it shifts through tall fountains where water trickles softly, reflecting the sky in rippling patterns of light. Life in the Persian Empire moves at a gentle, steady pace. Markets fill slowly as dawn progresses. Merchants display silks, finely woven carpets, incense, copperware, and delicate jewelry. The conversations are polite, voices controlled, never hurried. Even the animals seem to sense the tranquility. Camels kneel patiently, their eyes half closed in the warm sun, while horses stand quietly, their tails swaying lazily against the breeze. In the cool shadow of a temple dedicated to Ahura Mazda, priests in long white robes perform rituals of light and purification. A small flame burns continuously on a stone altar, its glow steady and calm. The priests move around it with slow, careful steps, reciting hymns in soft, rhythmic voices. The flame represents truth, harmony, and the moral order the Persians believed guided both kings and common people alike. The air smells faintly of fragrant herbs, creating a peaceful atmosphere that settles like a soothing weight on the senses. As you wander through the city, you notice how every detail reflects a serene philosophy of governance. The empire embraces diversity quietly and gracefully, allowing each region to maintain its own customs and traditions. People from many cultures walk the streets: Babylonians, Medes, Egyptians, Lydians, and Greeks, each speaking their own language, wearing their own clothing, and yet coexisting peacefully under a system designed to nurture unity rather than erase differences. The evening arrives slowly. The sun sinks behind the distant hills, painting the sky in soft hues of rose and gold. Lamps begin to glow along the streets, their flames flickering gently in the cooling air. Families gather in shaded courtyards, sharing meals of warm bread, stewed vegetables, herbs, and sweet dates. Their conversations drift lazily through the dusk, blending with the quiet murmur of fountains and the soft rustling of leaves overhead. As night deepens, music begins, harps, flutes, and gentle drumbeats rising from distant homes. The melodies are calm and layered, filling the air with a slow rhythm that soothes the heart. In open courtyards, dancers move with graceful steps, their silhouettes swaying like drifting smoke beneath lantern light. The stars emerge above, bright and steady, scattered across the dark sky like jewels set into velvet. Up on the terraces of Persepolis, the stone carvings glow faintly under moonlight. They stand silent but alive with presence, their serene expressions reflecting the quiet dignity of an empire that valued tolerance, order, and beauty expressed not through extravagance, but through harmony. The night is cool and still. The winds soften. The flames flicker calmly. The world rests under a wide, peaceful sky. And as your breath slows with the gentle rhythm of this ancient land, the journey prepares once again to shift toward a distant subcontinent where powerful kings, wandering monks, and the soft whisper of spiritual awakening will guide your next steps into the quiet dawn of India's Mauryan age. As the quiet magnificence of Persia fades gently behind you, the world shifts once more, carried by a warm breeze that flows across plains, forests, and sunlit riverbanks. The air grows thicker with the scent of sandalwood and fresh rain settling over distant fields. The sky seems wider here, its colors deeper, as though painted with slow, thoughtful strokes. You are entering the ancient lands of the Mauryan Empire, an era shaped not by the roar of conquest alone, but by a quiet turning inward, by reflection, by a gentle search for peace. Imagine the early morning mist rising from the foothills of the Himalayas. The light is soft, almost silver, spreading carefully across the dense forest below. Birds call from high branches, their melodies delicate and pure, echoing through the stillness of dawn. A narrow path winds through these gentle woods, leading you downward into the heart of the land where the first Mauryan footsteps once fell. The world feels young here. Villages rest near winding rivers, their thatched roofs dark with dew. Farmers step out into the fields with slow, deliberate movements. They carry baskets, tools, and the calm wisdom of generations. They walk with bare feet across soft earth shaped by monsoon rains. Their voices rise gently as they greet one another, sharing warmth and familiarity in the cool morning air. Imagine the faint drumming of an early Mauryan settlement awakening. Potters spin clay on simple wheels, their hands wet and steady as they mold smooth vessels for cooking and trade. Blacksmiths tend quiet fires, shaping iron tools with controlled strikes that never shatter the morning's calm. Women wash clothes by the river, their laughter drifting across the water like tiny ripples that shimmer under the early light. And yet, in this quiet world, a distant figure begins to move across the vast plain, a young man whose destiny will ripple across centuries. His name is Chandragupta. Picture him not as a conqueror, but as a thoughtful youth walking along dusty pathways, passing through villages where elders sit in the shade of banyan trees. He listens to their stories, learning from their wisdom, absorbing the rhythms of life that beat softly within the land. As time unfolds, Chandragupta gathers support, not through fear, but by offering a vision of unity and stability to people exhausted by constant conflict. His rise is steady, like the slow brightening of dawn across a quiet landscape. When he finally establishes the Mauryan Empire, it is not the sound of clashing swords that defines the moment, but the feeling of a new structure settling gently into place. Deep within the capital at Pataliputra, life flows with serene order. Wooden gates open to reveal long, shaded corridors lined with flowering plants. The air is perfumed with jasmine and sweetened by the scent of freshly cut bamboo. The courtyards are wide and welcoming, filled with ponds where lotus flowers bloom in soft pink clusters. Ministers walk softly across polished stone floors, their sandals barely making a sound as they move between rooms discussing matters of the state in calm, controlled tones. Scribes sit cross-legged near low tables, writing with thin brushes dipped in ink made from crushed charcoal and sesame oil. Their strokes are fluid and graceful, creating curved letters that look almost like dancing lines. The scripts they write record trade routes, laws, court affairs, and treaties. Their movements are slow and deliberate, the atmosphere peaceful as the light filters gently through wooden lattice windows. But the story of the Mauryan Empire is not complete without the presence of Ashoka, Chandragupta's grandson. Imagine him first as a determined young prince walking beside quick-flowing rivers, his eyes filled with ambition. Then picture him later, standing on a quiet hill after a great battle, listening not to the clamor of victory, but to the soft, grieving murmurs of wind passing through grass. It is here that he begins to turn inward, his heart shifting like a tide moving away from violence. His transformation is not sudden. It unfolds gently, like the soft unfurling of a lotus petal. He begins to seek wisdom rather than conquest, peace rather than dominance. And soon, the empire echoes with the quiet footsteps of wandering monks, men wrapped in saffron robes, walking barefoot along dusty paths. They move with tranquil purpose, carrying bowls, scriptures, and teachings that feel as light as breath. Imagine encountering one of these monks beneath the shade of a peepal tree, its leaves fluttering like soft whispers overhead. His voice is warm and steady as he speaks of compassion, patience, and the gentle truth that all beings seek peace. His words drift across the air like falling petals, settling softly in the hearts of those who listen. Even the birds gather on nearby branches, as if drawn to the calmness that radiates from him. Ashoka begins carving these teachings into stone pillars that rise quietly across the empire. These pillars stand in open fields, at river crossings, near villages, and along trade routes. Their surfaces are smooth and cool to the touch, inscribed with messages urging kindness, understanding, and moral clarity. Travelers rest beside them, reading the inscriptions in the shade, feeling a sense of calm connection to something larger and deeply harmonious. As evening approaches in the Mauryan lands, the world grows gentle. The heat fades into a soft warmth. Villagers gather near their homes, sitting on woven mats and sharing meals of rice, lentils, vegetables, and fresh flatbread cooked on clay stoves. Children play near the doorways, their voices fading slowly as the first stars emerge in the sky. Crickets begin their nighttime chorus. Fireflies drift lazily across the fields, glowing softly like floating embers. The rivers slow their song, moving with calm, steady currents that reflect the moon in shimmering patterns. Monks return to their small dwellings, lighting oil lamps whose glow spreads gently across packed earth floors. The Mauryan world rests in a peaceful balance. Not perfect, not untouched by struggle, but softened by the pursuit of harmony. And as you breathe deeply into this serene, ancient space, the journey prepares to move once again, toward the desert sands and river valleys where the kingdoms of Kush and Nubia wait quietly beneath the luminous African sun. As the soft glow of the Mauryan world fades gently behind you, time carries you westward once more, drifting across mountains, plains, and long quiet rivers until the warmth of the sun shifts in tone. The light becomes richer here, deeper, golden, as if the very air has been touched by ancient stories preserved in the sands. The wind brings with it a warm breath scented with desert grasses, acacia, and distant waters. You are entering the lands of Nubia and Kush, kingdoms carved into the heart of Africa, where culture, spirit, and quiet resilience bloomed beneath the vast sky. Imagine the Nile flowing differently here, wilder, narrower, bordered by steep cliffs of dark stone that glow deep red as the sun rises. The river cuts through the earth like a shimmering ribbon, its currents strong and purposeful. Birds with wide wings soar lazily above the water, casting long shadows on the surface. The air hums softly with the distant call of unseen animals waking in the early light. This world feels older than memory itself, shaped not only by human hands but by the slow, patient work of wind, stone, and time. Along the riverbanks stand small villages where the Nubian people begin their day. Homes made from sun-baked clay blend into the warm earth, their rounded forms soft and welcoming. Women step outside carrying water jars balanced on their heads with effortless grace. Men walk toward the fields, guiding cattle whose bells chime quietly with each gentle step. Children laugh as they run through patches of tall grass, chasing one another beneath the glowing sky. The whole world seems to breathe in harmony with the rise and fall of the river. As the sun climbs higher, the rhythm of life deepens. Fishermen paddle small boats carved from acacia wood, gliding smoothly across the shimmering water. Their oars dip silently into the Nile, each movement steady and practiced. They cast their nets with quiet confidence, trusting the river that has fed their families for countless generations. The sound of water brushing against the boat's edge is soothing, like a lullaby whispered by nature itself. Travel a little farther and the landscape transforms again. The green along the river begins to merge with a dry, golden expanse of desert. From this sandy horizon, something remarkable rises. Pyramids unlike those of Egypt, smaller but graceful, their dark stone surfaces warmed by the midday sun. These are the pyramids of Kush, standing proudly at Meroe, their shapes sharp and elegant against the pale sky. They form quiet clusters across the desert, like ancient guardians watching over the kingdom with patient, unblinking eyes. Imagine walking closer to these pyramids as the warm wind brushes softly against your skin. The sand beneath your feet shifts gently with each step, making faint whispering sounds. The pyramids grow taller as you approach, their entrances shaded by the angled stone. Inside, the chambers are cool and still, filled with echoes of long-ago rituals honoring kings and queens who once ruled with calm authority. The air carries a faint scent of old incense and dust warmed by centuries. Outside, artisans work beneath makeshift awnings, shaping pottery, carving stone, and crafting jewelry from gold mined in the hills. Their tools create soft tapping sounds that mingle with the breeze. The craftsmanship is delicate and precise, geometric patterns, flowing curves, and intricate designs inspired by the river, the desert, and the sky. These artisans learned from Egypt, yet created a style entirely their own, bold and elegant, reflecting the quiet pride of their people. Continue your journey into the heart of Meroe, and you will find the city alive with gentle activity. Streets of packed earth wind between homes decorated with painted symbols and vibrant colors. Merchants set up stalls made of woven reeds, displaying goods brought from distant lands, ivory, iron tools, woven fabrics, and carved ornaments. Trade was the heartbeat of Kush, flowing with the same steady rhythm as the Nile itself. Voices rise softly as people negotiate, laugh, and greet one another with warmth. Ironworkers stand near small furnaces, fanning flames with slow, deliberate motions. Sparks glow momentarily before fading into the bright daylight. Kush was known for its iron, tools, weapons, and decorative pieces shaped with quiet skill. Watching the metal soften, bend, and solidify again is mesmerizing, like witnessing Earth itself being gently persuaded into new form. As the afternoon drifts into early evening, the air cools and shadows lengthen across the desert. Camels move along distant trade routes, their silhouettes swaying against the horizon. Their soft footfalls create a steady rhythm, and the sound of their bells chimes faintly through the wind. Caravans pause near small wells, where travelers share water and soft-spoken stories about journeys across sunlit sands. In the villages, people gather for evening meals. Clay pots simmer over glowing coals, releasing warm, comforting scents of lentils, millet, and fragrant herbs. Families sit together on woven mats, sharing meals in quiet contentment as the sky deepens from gold to rose, and finally to a deep, velvety blue. The night sky here is astonishingly clear. Stars spill across the heavens in dazzling clusters, bright enough to guide travelers through even the darkest desert nights. Elders point toward constellations shaped by millennia of observation, telling stories of ancestral spirits who watch over the land. Their voices are soft, rhythmic, and comforting. Somewhere near a temple dedicated to Ammonius or Epidmac, torches flicker in the warm dusk. Priests clad in linen move slowly through stone courtyards, offering prayers carried by gentle incense smoke that drifts toward the sky. Their footsteps echo softly beneath carved pillars as they honor the gods who link the earth, river, and heavens together in quiet balance. As the moon rises behind the pyramids, their sharp silhouettes glow softly, casting long, peaceful shadows across the sand. The night air is cool and still, wrapping the world in a serene silence that feels both ancient and eternal. Nubia and Kush rest gently beneath the sky, lands shaped by trade, resilience, and a deep, unspoken harmony between people and nature. Their stories are not loud or forceful. They flow like the Nile, steady, sacred, and full of quiet strength. And as your breath slows with the calm of this ancient land, the journey begins to shift once more, preparing to carry you across oceans and forests toward the distant echoes of America's earliest civilizations. As the soft desert winds of Nubia and Kush fade behind you, the world gently shifts once again, carrying you far across oceans, past distant horizons untouched by the ancient kingdoms of Africa, Asia, or Europe. The air becomes thicker with moisture, warm and sweet. The scent of rain-soaked leaves, distant thunder, and blooming flowers fills the atmosphere. Slowly, the landscape rises into dense, emerald forests, alive with whispers of wind sliding through towering trees. You have arrived in the ancient lands of the Olmecs, the earliest known civilization of Mesoamerica, where mystery drifts through the humid air like a dream half-remembered. Imagine stepping into a clearing just as dawn breaks through the heavy canopy. Shafts of golden light filter between the leaves, illuminating patches of moss-covered earth and scattered stones etched with faint, weathered symbols. The forest stirs gently. Birds with bright feathers call out from high branches, their songs echoing through the vast greenery. Far below, insects hum in soft, rhythmic patterns. The air vibrates with life, not loud or overwhelming, but humming with a quiet energy that feels ancient, patient, and deeply connected to the earth. Walk deeper into the clearing, and the remnants of an early Olmec settlement begin to reveal themselves. Small raised platforms made of packed earth emerge from the ground, overgrown with vines. Narrow pathways wind between them, their edges softened by centuries of fallen leaves. You notice the faint scent of cacao drifting from nearby groves. Farmers tend small plots of maize, beans, squash, and fruit-bearing trees, moving slowly in the warm morning air. Their tools are simple, but their methods precise, shaped by a deep understanding of the land's moods and cycles. Children play near the edge of the settlement, their laughter blending with the melodic calls of distant monkeys. Women sit beneath woven shelters, grinding maize on stone metates, their movements smooth and graceful. The quiet scrape of stone on stone creates a calming rhythm that binds the community together. Smoke rises from small hearths, carrying the aroma of cooking maize and steaming tamales that fill the air with comforting warmth. But as you wander farther, something remarkable begins to appear from the shadows, something unmistakably Olmec. A massive stone head rests partially buried in the earth, its carved features serene and timeless. The expression is calm, almost meditative. The smooth curve of the lips, the powerful jaw, the helmet-like headdress, all carved with extraordinary precision. The stone is cool beneath your fingertips, shaped by hands that worked slowly, patiently, with deep reverence. No one knows exactly who these colossal heads represent, kings, ancestors, or heroes, but their presence is peaceful, almost protective, watching over the land with silent, eternal vigilance. The air inside the forest feels heavy with stories. As you walk, you come across small figurines made of jade and clay, animals, dancers, and stylized faces that seem to gaze softly toward the sky. The Olmecs left behind symbols of their beliefs and rituals, though much remains mysterious. Imagine a small gathering at dusk, as people gather around a gentle fire. A shaman steps forward, his movements slow and deliberate, wearing feathers and beads that catch the faint firelight. His voice rises softly, chanting in tones that blend with the hum of insects and the rustle of leaves. The chant is not frightening, it is soothing, rhythmic, carried on the warm night air like a lullaby. Nearby, a stone altar lies hidden beneath a canopy of leaves. It is smooth and dark, carved with swirling patterns inspired by jaguars, serpents, and flowing water, animals deeply respected for their strength, their grace, and their connection to the spirit world. Even in stillness, the carvings seem to move, shifting in the flickering glow of firelight. The people place offerings upon the altar: corn, flowers, cocoa beans, simple gifts given with gratitude. The night smells of earth, dew, and faint incense burning in clay bowls. As the evening deepens, lights from fireflies drift between the trees like tiny wandering stars. The sky above, visible through gaps in the canopy, becomes a canvas of shimmering points of light. Early Olmec astronomers watched the stars carefully, tracing their patterns with thoughtful eyes. They note the movement of Venus, the cycles of the moon, and the passage of seasons. These observations are not recorded in books or carved into stone. They are woven quietly into ritual, planting, and the rhythm of life. Travel to another part of the region, and you find yourself near La Venta, one of the Olmec ceremonial centers. The land flattens into open spaces where carefully arranged mounds rise gently into the evening sky. These mounds, built from earth and clay, form symmetrical shapes aligned with celestial patterns. Their arrangement feels peaceful and balanced, as though designed to bring heaven and earth into harmony. The pathways between them are lined with small stones polished smooth by generations of feet. Here, ceremonies unfold with grace and slow precision: dances, offerings, music played on simple flutes and drums that echo softly in the warm night air. The Olmecs were artisans of subtle brilliance. Jade masks rest in quiet chambers, their smooth surfaces cool and luminous. Carved figures sit in silent circles, their expressions calm and thoughtful. Even the tools they used, obsidian blades, polished stones, carved stamps, carry a gentle sense of purpose, as if every object held a story or meaning. As the night drifts deeper, the sounds of the forest soften into a tranquil hum. The warm air wraps around you like a blanket. The fire crackles gently, sending small sparks upward toward the canopy. The river nearby murmurs as it flows past smooth stones. The colossal heads watch silently over the land, their ancient eyes reflecting moonlight with a serene glow. This world, quiet and mysterious, breathes with the rhythm of the earth. Its people lived by listening to the forest, the sky, the animals, and the unseen energies that moved through all things. Their civilization did not rise with noise, but with harmony, with crafts, stories, rituals, and a deep respect for the land that sheltered them. And as you breathe slowly into the calm of this ancient forest world, the journey prepares to drift onward one last time, toward a gentle reflection on how all these empires, forgotten and remembered, rise, fade, and leave behind quiet lessons carried softly across the ages. As the ancient worlds fade softly behind you, time slows into a gentle hush. The evening sky warms with quiet tones of gold and blue, settling over a wide, peaceful plain covered in soft, swaying grass. Fragments of forgotten empires rest in the distance, silent stones, softened edges, memories dissolving gently into the earth. A calm breeze drifts across the landscape, carrying faint echoes of all the civilizations you have visited: the steady rhythms of the Nile, the whisper of bamboo, the breath of desert winds, the murmur of distant seas. Their stories linger only as quiet impressions now, fading like ripples on still water. The sky fills with soft starlight. The world grows calm, wrapped in a comforting stillness. Every rise and fall of history settles into silence. And here, in this quiet moment, the journey comes to its end. You rest. The world rests. And sleep arrives gently.